Hey, it's Jeff and welcome to our A to Z shower remodel video. Listen, if you have a bathroom that's a little tired and you want to upgrade the shower, we're going to take you step by step through the whole process of remodeling a shower without tearing it all apart. A lot of showers can be saved and just built inside of itself. We're going to go through the process. I bought everything at Home Depot to do this project so that you're not going to have to run around town and open accounts at all of my favorite stores. Making it simple for you because let's face it, with the supply chain that's going on, you want to try to keep things simple. This is simple, okay? If you own a house and you've never done a renovation before, you can do what you see in this video. You can take it from the old ugly one and make it something you can be proud of. You can do it yourself. It's not that hard. I'm going to walk you through every step so you can get this done. And then you can be the hero in your home. Cheers. So in this video today, I'm going to show you my tile over tile technique. The reason I'm doing this one is because it's part of my bathroom remodel series. There's some interesting information here I'm going to share and different products. The old series I did had a product that used to be available on Amazon, but now it is no longer available on Amazon. So I'm doing this with products I got from the local Home Depot, just so that you can be empowered to do this yourself, okay? You'll know what to get and where to get it. Now, step number one, of course, is Ziploc bag, because there's little set screws that are like literally about as big as a drop of water. You're not gonna wanna lose it, okay? This stuff is all little sealed. You're gonna need Allen keys. Take out the set screws. Don't lose these. It'll take weeks to order that part, okay? It's just a compression fitting in this case, but it's all the gunk from the hard water. Oh, throw it in a pail of CLR overnight or something. I got myself a wrench with some attitude today. Here we go. Okay, twist. Okay. Oh, great. Unthreaded from inside the wall. Brilliant. That just made my life more difficult. The reason I want to know what this pipe is, this is an NPT fitting, same thread on both sides. And I've got a drop here in the wall. So because I'm adding tile, I want to buy this in the next size bigger, which is a ½ an inch bigger. So I want to set this aside, make sure on my trip to the store, I buy the right fitting. Okay. And then we have this thing here. Now, way inside, there's a Phillips screw. Oh, it's just falling apart, eh? Don't be surprised if it falls apart. This is all plastic. Most of the products on the market today are not made of titanium. Okay, you're gonna give me a hard time, are you? Problem solved. Okay, now we'll throw what needs to get thrown out. And my screw here broke, so I need to grind that back. And then we can get onto the business of applying our multi-surface bonding primer. Let me just show you the product here. Right? MBP, multi-surface bonding primer. That's the stuff. That's the goop. And I'm just going to use a little mini roller. I'm going to cover all these surfaces. I'm looking for about 90 to 95% coverage. And I'll probably have to throw a tarp on the ground. I don't want to get this on my pan. It's filthy, but it can be cleaned. This stuff, multi-surface bonding primer, does not come off with a bit of a fight. So let's get all this out of here. I should probably pull that out of the wall as well. So before I bought the whole home filtration system, I bought these little mini filters. It's kind of like a Brita filter for your shower head. And it worked great. Had to change it every couple months, but you know, it helped out a lot. Water was too hard for my wife to use for her hair, so that's why I started using that. So if you need a quick, easy solution, that's one way you can go about it. Now this is steel, so you know it's going to be obedient. Do its job. There we go. Boom. Oh, okay. We're good. Okay. Step one, because no one even knows this product exists, and there's only 2 buckets on the shelf at my Home Depot. My guess is it's been there for a while. And best before date, maybe? Looks like we're gonna be all right. Huh. Okay. Oh! And to all of our American friends out there, if you're wondering, the box says it was made in Rochester, Michigan. So if it's selling at Home Depot in Canada and it's made in the United States, I'm going to say there's a real likely chance that they're selling this down there too. Okay. Oh, and it's blue. How lovely. Hopefully it doesn't stink. The reason I like using the Aqua Defense is because it doesn't smell. The Red Guard has a waterproofing system. It stinks horrible, but it doesn't do good for priming. Oh, that's got a bit of an odor. Ooh, yeah, Daddy, okay. Confined space, use a fan if you got one. Or just enjoy the ride. Woo. Okay, wowzer. Now this is just a paint job, right? Man, if I knew it was gonna be this stinky, I would have got a bigger roller. So this is just a primer, which means it's just like painting. And if we get it on, it creates a really sticky surface for other things to bond to. This is not about coverage or thickness or crack isolation. You really got no rules except get it wet. There we go. Okay. Now, when you're tiling in wet areas, the rule, they want you to have 95% coverage on your mud. So if you don't have 95% of the tile covered in this, you can't possibly have 95% coverage with your mud, because the mud might be all over the place, but if it's not bonded to this bonder primer, you don't have a bond at all. Okay? This is one of these times where you're the best contractor on the job, because this is your house, and you're the one that cares the most about it. And you're going to be the most meticulous to make sure that you get good bonding adhesion. Okay? Great time to be a little bit weird about it and just make sure everything is perfect. Why not? You only get to do this once. Now, if you like the idea that you can actually do this tile over tile, and you don't know if you have a waterproofing system, we have another video. I will link to it in the video description because it has the other steps that you're going to need. This video is going to be a quick synopsis, and through the magic of YouTube, let's say this is done and let's go install the tile right now. It's toxic, but it's survivable. We're going to let this dry overnight. You don't need to be in a rush, okay? The coolest thing about this primer is you do not have to prep the surface, right? It's just make sure it's not filthy dirty and covered in mud. But as long as it's the stone or your tile that's there, you can just go right over top. Okay, I need some fresh air. In just a few seconds, we'll be installing tile the next day. Love YouTube. Okay, so telling you about my problems in the shower isn't gonna necessarily help you. So here's like things you wanna consider in order. 1, these inside corners, are they both level? Okay. If they're opening out or opening in, you're going to want to mark the widest dimension and keep that in consideration so that it's easier to cut tile than to fill voids, okay? I know it's more work, but it looks better and performs better long term. So try to consider using a laser level to identify your starting points for your tile based on the widest and the longest. In this situation here, everything is pretty decent with the walls, but the floor is out of whack, right? And when I say out of whack, I mean almost an inch from that corner to this corner. It's an old farmhouse, so the pan went on the existing floor. So what I've got to do is I've got to consider this as my starting point at the bottom. I'm going to draw a laser line based on that point where the tile goes. I'm going to cut everything else to make that first laser line. And once I've got that installed, I'm going to go horizontal. Then I can build on something that's level and relatively square. That's probably my best course of action. It's also not that difficult because I only have to cut 2 tiles, one in this wall and one in this wall. And then we'll deal with how we're going to finish the niche once we get here. So unfortunately, because of my tile selection, I'm going to do what I don't like to do. I'm gonna have to go horizontal. I'm gonna alternate from pattern to solid and do the stripes, okay? And I'm gonna start at the bottom with the horizontal lines, and I'm gonna take a few inches off that first tile, lay it in level, and then that'll give me the extra amount of space I need to be able to finish tight to the ceiling. When I get to that last row of tile, I'll be able to actually cut it in and fill the gap right to the ceiling, and it's gonna look amazing. I'll probably only take off about maybe 1 inch, and I can make that adjustment at the end. Wasn't the look I was going for, but maybe in hindsight it's a good thing. Anyway, I should have made this a lot easier on myself and bought smaller tile. So I've taken all of my math into consideration. I've got tile extending past the shower pan to the floor. If I need to cut a piece in there to fill, I will. I'm gonna have to take a little bit off the bottom and cut in a small piece to go around the top. So, since I have the flexibility going like a third of a tile off and then have lots of space, now my major consideration is right here, these two lines. This represents roughly where my grout line is from a horizontal tile. It's about 1 inch or so lower, so that's fine. But up here, this joint right here, where my tile will sit under here and it has an edging. So I've got to get my measurement to this point. 11 3/4, 5 times is 1.25 inches. It leaves me about 1/2 inch too high. So I'm going to take off my first tile back here, the inch gap that I had, plus the 1/2 inch for here to get my joint right. Talk about precision. So what I'm going to do is, instead of taking 1.5 inches, I'm going to take 2 inches. And here's why. If this tile extends lower than here, that's fine. I can add a piece of cement board, build it out, and then put tile on. It's not a problem. I'd rather build out the top down to meet my grout line than run the risk of being too high and having a big chunk of grout here, okay? So I'm gonna take 2 inches off the back wall, we'll get started, and we'll just wrap this sucker up, okay? So once I get the first tile installed, I'm gonna drop in the laser level, and then I'm gonna measure off the laser level to the shower pan, cut my stone custom to meet with that laser level line, and then the rest of this will be smooth sailing. All right, well, while I go cut this, you can take a look at the pattern. We did a rough layout on the floor here, so you get an idea of what this project looks like finished. And this is the best way to do it. For most people, we're visual, we need to see the layout. Just find a space and check it out before you move forward. Make sure you're gonna be happy with what you're gonna see at the end. Remember, know the end from the beginning every single time. We're using an angle grinder. No guard protection because I like to see what I'm doing. I don't know what my angle is on this if I got some big piece of metal here, so I'm wearing safety glasses. Bottom line, get a good porcelain quality blade. Okay, don't buy just any tile or ceramic blade. It won't be good enough for rectified porcelain. You gotta spend some money here. These are about 40 to 50 bucks. All right, if you're not spending good money, you're not getting good blades. So you get what you pay for, don't cheap out. This is not the time to drive yourself crazy with a piece of tool that won't do the job. So I'm taking 2 inches off. All I do is measure off 2 inches, set this up as a guideline, right? And when I cut this, instead of going straight down and risking chipping it, I just put it on a 5-degree angle, okay? If the back of the top stone got ground out a little bit, it isn't gonna make a difference. Now I'm done with that, I can get out of the way. Just finish cutting through. I'll cut through on both ends first, and then just finish the middle a few runs. What I got here is I'm gonna do a score cut for all my horizontals. There are a ton of different tool options out there. If you're a fan of the channel, you've seen me use, I have a small little tile cutter, and that's great for tile, small tile and backsplash. Larger stone and more expensive stone, it's nice to rely on something a little heavier gauge. So I went out and I picked up this Ruby. Been a long time since I've owned a score tool this big because I usually use a wet saw. But because it's 4 feet long, I'm not comfortable using that with my wet saw because it has a platform with a raised edge. And so the whole time you're cutting, it's just vibrating between 2 points, and I didn't want to risk it. So I picked this up to do some score cutting with it. I want to give it a try. Like I said, I'm trying to do everything in this video with stuff you can get from Home Depot. The tools to the materials, it's all there. The only thing I didn't get at the hardware store was the tile. I just can't find a better tile store in Ottawa that I like to shop at than Eurotile, so shout out to you guys. Great stone. Nobody sponsored anything. I bought all this myself, so it's just my choice, right? My 34 inches, here we go. And like any tile score machine, oh, it has to, there we go. Oh, she just needs to be lubricated a little bit here. It's in the box too long. Okay, we're gonna just set the little wheel. And that's a really nice scratch. That is a much better scratch than the tool that I use, okay, to be honest with you. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna come back here a little bit, and this functions differently. That puts the pedal down, and now I can apply my pressure. Well, I'm gonna set the blade a little bit different. There we go. How happy am I with that? Not. Broke my bloody corner. Nice. All that work, eh? Broke the corner. The good news is I'm doing the back wall first, and I'm gonna have tile covering both corners. So even though it's got a chip, it will be covered by the other side. It's maddening that no matter how much money you spend on good tools, you still get results like this. Anyway, let's go get this in. Tools that I got from the Home Depot. This is a QEP trowel. It's 1/4 by 3/8. So 1/4 wide, 3/8 deep, 1/4 wide. Those are the three numbers related to on this side. Perfect for wall tile in a nice flush environment. Larger format tile, if you have any movement at all on your wall, you're gonna wanna go 1/2 by 1/2 so you can build out the stone. But I don't have to build out the stone. The only thing I gotta worry about is getting cement all over the place. So here's my tiling setup, okay guys? You're gonna want a pail with a sponge. You wanna keep yourself as clean as possible, your tools as clean as possible, your work environment as clean as possible. I am using a tarp on the shower pan for protection. However, I'm calling up a glazer, so I probably don't need this anyway. But just because I know people like to see what the process is to protect the shower, I'm using a margin trowel to get the extra cement off the bottom. All right, I don't want my margin trowel laying around covered in cement. All right, I've got my wedges and I've got my clips. I'll show you that system in a second. But right now, I'm gonna need 2 wedges, one for each corner of the shower, to set my first stone. And this is the one that I cut down. And the last thing I need to do is just apply a little bit of the thin set to the back of the stone. Okay, this is the side that I cut. I'll put that one down. I want to maintain a bit of a gap here. When we're finished, this gap is not going to be grouted. It'll be siliconed. We'll show you that later on in the video because we're going to do the complete installation of the shower. This is not just the tile. This is going to be the fixtures and everything else, okay? So it'll be complete installation. So if you're wondering why the video is so long, it's because everything you need to do this project is in this one video. Okay? Now, I'm going to cheat to this side a little bit because the chip. Last thing I'm going to do here, because once this stone is perfect, I'm able to build on top of it because I've got structural support, okay? So I want to bring my laser level in. Drop it down somewhere reasonable here. Drop a horizontal line. And then grab my measuring tape. And I'm going to measure from my tile to the line on both sides and see if I'm level and make any adjustments necessary. That's 16 7/8. That's 16 1/4. Unbelievable, isn't it? Well, 16 and almost a half, sorry. Wow. So, this side needs a little bit of an adjustment. A little bit of an adjustment, eh? Holy cow. $16 1/2, 16 1/4. Now, I am going to actually just drop that corner and not use this whole spacer just to see if I got room. There we go. Now, don't want direct contact. But this spacer has a really thin tip, so I'm going to just get just that little thin tip underneath the stone. It's not going to make a great big difference. And then on the second row, if I need to make an adjustment, now I don't have direct contact with the pan. They can move freely, and the silicone will be the joint. That's what you're looking for, okay? Wow, it is hot working in a small space like this, Max. Take the margin trowel, okay? Clean that little bit of mud off. These are the lash clip system. Get the flat ones. They have curved ones. Those are designed if you're putting two stones on a wall that are different thicknesses so that it can curve to bring the front flush. If you're using two stones of different thicknesses, I'm just going to say don't. It's a lot of extra work. Never had it work out on a job site before. Now you see that? People always ask me, how is it that when I take the clip out, it breaks off and I'm left with this little white plastic stem? Because your edge is full of cement. If you take a margin trowel, $10 solves all your problems. And on a 45-degree angle, you just clean that area there. Then you slide this in behind. Now the area is clean. Okay? That's it. I know, great big trade secret there, folks, but that's the whole idea. If you work clean and you don't have cement buildup in between your joints, you will never have a problem breaking those tabs off. Yep, I know. The things you learn on YouTube, eh? So now, because there's a pattern, I want to make sure that I'm putting the cut side on the same side of the shower every time. Okay, now it's resting on these plastics. Here's why. I want to line up the detail so it looks perfect. Okay? Now, like I said before, because I'm on a pretty flat surface, this makes my job relatively easy. You know, I don't have to work too hard to collapse the ridges or anything. Everyone's going to want to comment, oh, you should pull the tile off and take a look. Fine, I'll do that the next tile. Here's the tool. Comes with the system. All right, and this is designed for compression. Really works this simple. And squeeze. Yep. If you can do this, you can get perfect tile. No need to spend thousands of dollars on a tradesman. All right, there you go. What are we at? $300 in tools, and you're now a professional tradesman. Doesn't that feel good? Okay, let's just keep going. One more tile. This time I'll put it on and take it off and make a mess just to prove that we got good adhesion. Now I'm gonna stand up. Oh, whew. Oh, welcome to the Homo sapien group. Oh, ah. Let's do this one. That's clean. Oh. Now, people might want to know how many clips to use. There is no actual rule, okay? Here's the rule. As many as you need to get a good look, right? There's no too many, too little. If you buy quality rectified porcelain, it's incredibly straight. Look at that. It's straight. Dead as an arrow. Brilliant. If you buy lower quality porcelain or a ceramic, in a lot of cases, a longer stone, they all have a really bad bevel to it. So you need a lot of clips to help pull all that together because they will actually squeeze together to make flush. And a lot of these things have got limitations on the design because of how poorly they're manufactured. And if you're going to stagger the joints, you can only stagger up to a certain number of inches. Make sure you check the specs on the stone you want to work with. Now, according to the industry standard, when it comes to tile professionals, you want 95% coverage in a wet area. In new house construction, I think the standard is probably around 75. And you can decide what your standard is. But for best results, go with as much adhesion as you can. Okay, now, I didn't do anything special here. I just set it in, right? Let's take a look. Bad adhesion, or is it? See how there's the lines on both sides? That's actually really pretty decent. Now, to get better adhesion, you want to collapse the ridges more. You want to slide it back and forth, okay? And it doesn't really collapse anything as much as it squishes it around. There we go. Now, we want to use these again. Flat side on the back, the teeth part on the front. so they actually can grab. All right, like I said, here's professional tile technique. $30 tool, a couple pieces of plastic. You too can be a tile pro. There we go. Now these come in different thicknesses. This is actually 1/16. Okay, that's what I was wanting, so that's good. All right, there we are. Now, the way you finish the rest of your tile job is simple. We're gonna drop a laser line that we can measure and measure the left and the right side of each tile on the sides, cut them accordingly, set them in, again, use the wedges to make it all perfect, and then just build the rest of the wall. Nice and easy. Okay, so this is the piece I'm gonna install now, but I'm gonna use the offcut to measure. All right, that's just too big of a stone, and it's too delicate. Even when you have a rectified porcelain, the edge is square cut. If you even touch it wrong, it'll chip the glaze. So I'm gonna use this. Now I'm just gonna go like this, because you can use a measuring tape, but when you're dealing with the 16ths in this world, you really wanna just get up close and personal. Okay, now that's a good spot for me to cut. This is on a 1° angle, so I know the back is gonna be higher. So I'm gonna cut there, knowing that I'm also putting a tile here, and that's gonna cover the gap, the difference. This is how we're gonna do it. So instead of cutting the angle, it's gonna cut based on the back of the stone at the higher height, and then when the other stone goes in, it'll all be covered up. Now I can translate that information on my stone. Mark it. Here we go. To this point to here, again, it's 34 inches. And I'm gonna go downstairs and use the grinder to make that inside corner cut. When you choose to work like this, you'll find that it's a lot easier to do all of these inside corner cuts and then cover everything with something straight, okay? There we go. And if you're wondering, this is a glazed porcelain. This is a permanent marker, okay? Removal system, voila. Don't be worried about marking up too much. That's only if it's glazed. If it's semi-glazed, okay, then you might run into trouble. And if it's anything other than glazed, you'll run into trouble. You'll have to use a pencil in those situations. But when you're dealing with glaze, you can use a marker. All right, see if I know what the hell I'm doing here. Good God, y'all. What is it good for absolutely nothing. Wow. That's amazing. This is awesome. But here's what we're gonna do. If you want to learn about cutting tiles, little holes like this, and to be honest with you, there's a grinder you can use a wet saw, you can use drill bits. There's a lot of different tools in the market. We did a video showing all of the cutting techniques for wall tile, floor tile, all the different tools, okay? So we're gonna put that link at the end of this video. You can go and check it out. You can skip through and find the information that you need, and you can mark it like for a resource for working down the road. Okay, and just so you know, this remodel of the shower, it's part of a whole series of bathroom remodeling that we're doing here in my master bath at the farmhouse. We're doing new floors, we're doing the wall tile, we're doing a new vanity. There's a whole lot of going on here, so make sure you subscribe to this channel and hit the bell for notifications. You don't want to miss this series. And we'll have links in the video description below if we have other videos coming out in this series before this one. Not sure which way they're going to come out yet, but just in case, if this is the first, make sure you hit that bell and you don't want to miss this series. We're actually taking this really old, ugly farmhouse ensuite and turning it in a very palatial kind of environment for the resale of this home. It's the last part of this house. It's all been decorated and done over. And this nasty bathroom has got to be brought up to the same quality level as the rest of the house. So that's the point of what we're doing here. Now I'm at a point where I'm just going to finish this wall and then do another wall and then do another wall. I don't have a whole lot more to teach you until we get to this point of the niche. So I think what I'm going to do is we'll just throw it on time lapse. You can watch this and then we'll come back when it's time to do the niche. All right, cheers. Okay, so welcome to day 2 of the tile install. Now, the weather has turned bad and it's raining, so I can't do any cutting with my grinder outside. So we're just gonna wait till tomorrow to finish cutting all the stone. But right now I'm gonna show you is how we're going to resize the niche. Because the secret to having a really good looking project is not having slivers on all the sides, right? Now, this is my back wall, and I'm going to have this grout line to contend with. This is my difference, okay? from the existing to here. This is my difference. So what I'm gonna do is show you a technique, because what I already have a waterproof shower. I'm gonna be installing tile over tile without a waterproofing system this time because I don't need it. There's already waterproofing behind it, okay? If you're not sure, then add a waterproofing layer, by all means. You can coat a waterproof membrane and paint it over top of this multi-surface bonding primer just fine, okay? What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add Kerdi board to the underside. I'm gonna screw it in place and glue it in place, all right? I'm not gonna worry about waterproofing it because it's a waterproof material. It doesn't degrade when in contact with water, so I don't really care. So what I'm gonna do is I have to turn on my laser level and try not to go blind again. Here we go. Yeah, that's what I gotta get to. Now here we go. So I've got my laser line at the edge of my tile. My goal is to install this tile, just like this, the same position on the wall, okay? In order to do that, I have to have installed the two on the bottom perfectly level as well. This is why you've got to have a laser level tool when you're doing work like this. You just can't afford to fool around with this. If you're out 1/8 of an inch, you're done. It's going to look like garbage because that 1/8 of an inch translates into a really wide grout line on one side and a skinny grout line on the other side. So I am sitting exactly 35 3/16. Okay, measure to the 16th in this situation. 35 3/16. If you start with a laser level, everything you do will be perfect every time, okay? Now I know that the line that I'm building from will be consistent as the back wall. I'm using the same clips, everything will be fine. So when I get here, this tile is gonna be on this line. So I want to build down this part of the ceiling until I'm at a height where I can install a tile on that surface and then put the edging on and be in a perfect position, okay? So all we do is just take a measurement here real quick. I'm gonna go 33. And then 4, should be consistent. Perfect. We're gonna go 32 because that's how wide the board is. Yeah. And I'm not gonna be too concerned about that. Now, when you're working with Kerdi board, every one of these squares is a 1/2 inch, okay? So when I'm cutting this, I'm just gonna count down, I need 4 inch. 1/2 is 1, 1/2 is 2, 1/2 is 3, 1/2 is 4. There's my mark. Okay, now, cutting horizontally is difficult. It's actually easier to cut vertical. Now that I got my mark, see, because I can see where my blade's going. If I'm going horizontal, it's a little more difficult, my arm's in the way. And you can just cut right on that line. And the way you do this is look a couple inches ahead. And as long as you're staring ahead of where the blade's going, your brain does the math, communicates with your hand, and it'll pull the knife where it needs to go. And then you don't need a straight edge. And you can do this in a small space. That's one. How many of these am I gonna need? Well, I've already measured. The cement plus the tile is 1/2 inch. Okay, so if I go one more layer, I need 3/4. So I'm gonna go 3 layers. And I'm gonna be a little shy, and that's okay, and I'll tell you why. When we do the second part of this niche and we build this out, I'm gonna demonstrate how to set that tile in position. We're just gonna use a thicker trowel and put like a 1/2 inch groove on it, and then we can press it into place, okay? And it'll collapse the ridges until it sits in the perfect location. I'll show you that in a minute. Let's finish cutting these. For everybody who doesn't know, my Olfa knife, this is a new black blade. Their claim to fame is that they're apparently stronger. They last longer, they stay sharp. It's a hardened steel or coating or whatever it is. I'm giving it a try. I'm not a big fan of spending money on something that that's more expensive than what I'm using, but I'm gonna give this a review and we'll see if I like it. I generally never use them because they were so much more expensive. But if I like it, I'll let you know in another video. To assemble this, I'm actually having to be creative. No, and I tell people all the time, don't turn your house into a science experiment. But I think there is room a little bit of wiggle room there to use your head. Don't be afraid to use your brains. And I'll tell you right now, construction adhesive, this is not going to get me 90% coverage. And all the tile people out there are gonna be like, hold on, wait a minute. You know, the coverage rule is not anything to do with waterproofing or anything else. It's got simply to do with impact. And is the tile supported? Now, I'm just gonna run this back and forth here a little bit. Okay, put all 3 layers on. And then I'm gonna connect it with some exterior grade screws so they won't ever rust. Even if a little bit of water does get in behind this, which I seriously doubt. Once you're waterproofed, everything else in a shower is just designed to be water diversion, just to help minimize your risk. Here we go. Okay, and we're just going to use these screws to set this in place so that until the adhesive is completely cured, there's no risk of this falling out. Yeah, and I know Schluter always says you should use one of their washers. I'm not buying a $30 washer kit to install 6 ounces of foam. Remember, there's a lot of different ways to do it, right? You can comment down below if you think this is crazy, or if you think it's just sheer brilliant. Anyway, now that that's done, that's that problem solved. The tile here is going to be cut, okay? According to the niche, cutoff is going to go recess and become the back section. Same thing with the next tile. This cutoff, whatever's left, becomes this tile. So now we're ready to roll. Okay, and so real quick before we go any further, we did a video series where we built a custom niche, and I go through all the steps and stages necessary to have it perfect so your niche is right on your grout lines. We'll put that link in the video description, and we'll just call it a niche video. Bottom line, if you're building something from scratch, you've got to follow the product's building practices because you are building a waterproofing system, okay? What I'm doing here is just doing a build out on an existing waterproofed system, all right? So there's a different approach. So don't jump down my throat if you think, oh, this guy is a hack. No, I'm just being creative because sometimes you need a creative solution to solve a problem. It's the mother of invention, right? And so this, in my experience, has longevity and is really well built. Anyway, let's have that discussion in the comment section. If you need to learn more, don't think that this is how I think everything should be built. This is how I think you can modify an existing waterproof structure, okay? The only other problem we had with this tile over tile business, let me get this turned off and out of the way, is right out here. How do you finish this, right? I'm going to show you that trick right now. Okay, so in our original tile over tile video, we showed a solution where we actually used a grinder, we cut back the original stone, and then grabbed a piece of Schluter trim, like this metal, that was 1 inch thick. And we slid it in, and then we just it packed out the space with cement and placed the tile flush, right? And that works, and you can check out that video. We'll put that link in here as well. In this case, because I'm on an outside corner, I have an easier solution. I'm basically going to take a piece of drywall and install it, laminate it over top of this. And at the edge, I'm going to bring it out to this point, okay? And I'm going to put a metal J-trim on that drywall. So I'm going to go cut the drywall on the J-trim, bring it up here, and I'll assemble it for you and show you how that works and what the advantages of doing that and how to prep it so that when I'm finished, I can be resting right on top of that corner. I'll have a perfect joint. All right, that's why they call it J-trim, okay? So now we know the back behind is the thick part and what you see up front is the thin part. Now on drywall, if you cut near the edge, it's tapered. It just sits right in there, like nothing, okay? It's really simple. Not the best situation though, because there's a possibility for movement and it'll crack that line. So what we do is we start over here like this and we force it and we snap it in, okay? And that's easy. And you can set the thickness if you need to, okay? And then it sits flush on the back, flush on the front. All right, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take this bad boy off now. Boy, it is easier to put it on than get it off. I'm gonna put on the 8-foot piece, we'll stick it in place, and we'll show you the steps you need to take to finish this corner. Now, the most important point on this piece is at the ceiling. We want to make sure we're nice and flush here so we don't have to use a lot of caulking. Now this is not something you're going to see in a lot of residential applications, but this J-trim is like a drywaller's best friend in commercial situations. So many applications for this. All right, let's get this bad boy installed. The goal here is to go flush on the corner. And I'm going to use some exterior rated screws again because I don't have any 2-inch drywall screws around today. Okay, now because this side is tapered, it actually means it's coming along and then it goes in. So when I put this corner bead on, it's going to make a really lousy corner. Okay? Because it's like not enough of a rise here to fill. So what I'm going to do, so I'm just going to pinch the corner. Take it from 90 to about 80, 85. Okay? And then I'll push it into place. Now listen, if you're new to drywall and you're not too familiar with all the tips and tricks, we got a couple of great videos with all of my tips and tricks and hacks and cheats. All right, you can check that out in the video description. We'll put a link, we'll put a card up here too. I mean, if you have the ability to see cards, that's easy. You can start that one. You can just open up that link, pause the video, and go get back to it in a minute. Now, in this situation, we're using this crimper tool. Yeah, it's very common in commercial drywall that they use 2 layers for fire ratings, okay? And so there's nowhere to attach these corner beads to the wood. So what they use is they use this trick, okay? And they just line this up, get a good bit of compression on there where I know that I've got metal to metal and there's nothing but gap. So from here to here is all gonna get filled with compound, okay? I'm just gonna take this. These are about 20, 25 bucks. They come with a rubber mallet. Just line it up and give it a smack. And it makes sharp teeth and bites right into the wall. And that is enough until you get your compound on there and dry it in. There we go. Pretty happy with that. And now we're just gonna get some compound on here. Two coats of that, the wall's finished again. Perfect. Now we've got something to come and finish on. I'm excited about that. The only other thing you want to do here is this. Yep, you guessed it. This metal, it works a lot better when you're painting if it's primed. And to prime a smooth, shiny surface like this, a flat oil works amazing. So just use a little bit of Kilz, okay? Get that pigment on there. And the goal here is so that when we go to paint, we are gonna have a perfect finish. I'm gonna let that set up and dry, and then I'll finish the mud. And then the next step here is to get out the cutting tools and get all of this tile installed. We'll get that on video next. All right, next step, guys, you want to take your faceplate for your plumbing. This is the finish. Remember, and you've got your gasket here, all right? So you want to just line this up and then identify what your maximum size hole for that tile is going to be, right? Now, obviously you want it smaller than that because we also have a gasket. So, wow, at least 3/8, closer to a half if you can. And you're gonna see right here, the other one was cut more square. It's difficult to get a good seal, right? So we wanna make sure that we have lots of room. I've also got screws here and here that are on Allen keys, and that's like a shutoff valve for the valve in the wall. So we can come across here, all right? So now that we have that concept of the interior that we want to have, so that the gasket's engaged with the tile, we're going to lift this into place. And this is where having these clips is really awesome, because I've got something to set the tile on and I'm not risking chipping the glaze. Okay, so now I can literally see, I want to make a mark on my tile here, just eyeballing next to that shutoff valve. I'm going to get this as tight as I can. Okay, and then, okay, so now I want to measure up to this line here. So if I go at 8 inches at the bottom, that's above my gasket line. I like that. So I'm going to transfer that information on here. Here, that's my lowest point. Okay, and because I don't want to cut around here, I'm going to cut across and then on an angle. We're going to go like a 5 side. That's how we're going to cut that hole. That way, we're going to make sure that our gasket is continuously up against that tile, and we're going to get a great seal, all right? Now, if you want to learn how to cut tile with a grinder, that's not going to be in this video. That's what we're going to use here as a grinder. It's going to be handheld cut. We have a video where we went through all the different cutting tools and techniques, and you can take a look at that link in the video description right now. If you need to learn how to cut tile, or if you get cards, you can click the card right now and go to that video. Get that one saved, and then we can come back to that when you're ready. Hey. Okay. And one more thing. I've got this new hole saw tool. It's not in that cutting video, so we're going to do that in this video. I picked it up because it looks like a really good DIY tool. It might only be for 1 or 2 uses. I'm not sure about the quality of this blade, but we're going to drill that hole over here in this video and up top as well, and we're going to show you how this functions and I give you my review on it. Okay, now we're ready to go here. Now if you like, you can take your faceplate and you can double check. It's a no-brainer. I mean, look at all the room I got here. It's just crazy. I'm going to get rid of this now. Next step is going to be to do the cut for the niche. So, first thing we're going to do is we're just going to identify, I want to cut right here, nice and flush. So I'm just going to measure up to the edge. I'm going to cut this opening out of the next tile. And I'm going to use with the cutoff and set it on the back wall. Same thing here, whatever this cutout is, the recess goes on the back wall. And then I'm going to take this tile for the bottom ledge. I'm going to overhang it, and then I'm going to use the plastic edging to create a nice little line here, okay? So always do the face to the dimension of the hole, and then you can build out all 4 sides in the back afterwards. And then use your plastic edging. This one's a little bit tricky, eh? When you're measuring this situation like this, what you want to do is you want to just, like the X, okay? Put that on the tile. When you're measuring, go from that point, get your measurement, 21, 24 and a half. Find that spot on the tile and then draw your line. Because we don't have the shutoff valves, I can cut this a little bit tighter. 2 3/4. And we'll throw that on the grinder. The same piece of tile, we're cutting this ledge off, right? So we want to measure from the spacer. We're going to go 8.5. Nice to be level, 8.5. So I'm going to go 8.5. Now I want to measure from the inside edge down to the tile. So we're going to throw a level on here so we translate the good line. Mark the top of the tile. That's my measurement. And I'm going to cheat just a little bit. And I'm going to make this just a little wider to guarantee. Remember, because we're doing the face first and then we're capping it, even if I have a little extra space here behind this tile, I can fill that with thin set. It's still going to look perfect. So don't be afraid to give yourself a little bit of breathing room. Thing, measure from that corner. We'll call it 13 3/4. So this is garbage. Whew, here we go. Down to the grinder. Ah. Sweet dude, thank you. I'll just use the spacer here to mark this off. So although it's an offcut, it's a perfect offcut. That goes back there, right? I just had them cut a couple of 4s. 4 takes me just shy. I add the plastic and it'll go just over and it'll be marvelous. And in case you didn't notice, I did all my measuring to cut this tile on the wrong tile because we've got a recurring pattern. So while I was down at the saw, I had to redraw that and cut it again. One of those days. Sometimes, you know, when there's too much on your mind, it's just really difficult to do detailed work. That's what happens, you know. Go away for a couple of days, you clear your mind, and it gets started up all over again as soon as you wake up the next day. All right, here we go. Step one for the niche. Get your cuts, get your offcuts, right? We're gonna start with the back wall. That's what this piece is, back wall. And the offcut of this, again, back wall. Then I've got a couple of long pieces of 4-inch cut, and we should be okay. After this, the system is basically you want to get the ceiling part installed first, and that can be a little bit tricky. The reason we need the ceiling first, take a look at this. Imagine if this is installed, okay, and then left overnight, and all cured. Then the next day, you're literally setting your next tile on top of this, and it's already carrying the weight. It's really gonna help a lot. A niche is gonna take you with large format tile 2 days. There's no way 2 days around. You can't just build it all at once and walk away, all right? Not with this kind of weight on the stone, not unless you're using ultralight cement, and I'm not. So this is the way it works today. 2-day build. I'm going to start changing the way that we're applying everything. Just because it's a small piece, you still want to maintain the same system. If I don't back butter this tile, it won't fit with the next one. And the next one's big enough that it needs to be back buttered no matter what. Now what I want to do is just use these spacers. Get the grout line perfect. Yeah, it's on the money. Now we've got this sorted out. I can put my bottom ledge on with the slope, and I can let that dry and set tonight. And then tomorrow I can put the side and the ceiling on, okay? I can also continue just building the wall if I do this differently. I can put the ceiling on and the next wall piece, because I can always build a brace to go from this structure here up to the tile, all right? And the best brace that we use is Kerdi board. If you don't have Kerdi board, you've got to get a piece of lumber, like a 2x4 or 1x4, and you put your tile across and you just put your lumber here until this is set, right? And then you can also build the next day underneath that with the next piece, again with lumber, and then you can finish the side the next day after that. So it could be a 3-day process for this, just because you're carrying so much weight, all right? Now, because we have Kerdi board, we're just going to take the next couple pieces and we can structure that in as we go. So it's going to work out really well for us. Yeah, I think I want to get my sill on today, okay? And then use the Kerdi board from the sill to carry the ceiling, okay? And then I can leave that in place. And then the next day, the ceiling will be dry, the base will be dry. And because it's not carrying a lot of weight, it's not going to cause too much compression to mess this up. And I can use these little wedges to keep my gaps for grouting. And then the next day, I can come along and put the next big tile on. Right, because I'm using this wedge, I can't do the base till tomorrow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a Kerdi board, and I'm going to put the ceiling piece in with the plastic trim mold, okay, and this next tile. And I'm going to build all that piece as one unit with Kerdi board support to build all that, all right? Because I'm using the plastic edging, okay, I want the plastic edging to come all the way over to the tile and then all the way to the tile, even though there's going to be a grout line, okay? So I'm going to take the actual measurement, which is 33 and like 3/8. I'm going to cut the stone 33 1/4, so I have a grout line on each side, all right? But I'm going to cut the plastic 33 3/8. That made any sense. We'll see as we go. Okay, so it was 33 1/4 on the stone. I almost wish I had a walkie-talkie with somebody working the wet saw today. So the idea here, the premise, is that my ceiling gets installed right here, right? That's where the plastic edging goes. You want your plastic edging the same height as the existing tile. So that means I'm gonna have a pretty good thick amount of mud there. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna measure from the base to this existing ceiling piece here, which is gonna be too long, and I'm gonna put 2 wedges like this, set my tile in, and then I will straighten them up to hold it in place. And I'm gonna set the next tile, and that Kerdi board will make nice and wide so that I have enough compression that I can use that to carry the load of the tile as well. This is going to be interesting. Here's the best part. I just go like this, and I'm going to be at this height at best under full compression. Because I'm working upside down, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to back butter the ceiling and then put the trowel marks on the tile itself. Okay? Or I'm just going to have a mess. And I'm doing a pretty thick back butter because I know I'm going to end up with a pretty thick bit of tile here. Hey! Okay, that's going to work. All right, lots of cement here. It's probably going to get messy. I'm going to just trowel and rake. Because I don't want to wipe it off. I want to leave the excess on there. If I take too much of this off, I won't be able to add it on later. What's the price for perfection? Get it in. It's not enough cement. Now you want to use the finished factory edge here because you can't mess around and make a perfect job with your fingers on a cut edge. It'll just slice you wide open, right? All right, now that I've cleaned up my mess, remember the original sill here is on a slope. When I'm doing this, I'm setting this up as perfectly as I can. And the only way to do that is to then add a wedge on the front side to create extra compression here as well, from this point to this point. So I want to make sure I want extra compression right here. We're going to add the plastic Schluter trim. And just for the record, this is not Schluter trim, this is the Prova trim from Home Depot. Okay. The benefit of using this system is that I can still maneuver and adjust. So now I'm going to put the next stone on, and then we'll maneuver and adjust accordingly. And then we'll put more wedges in to hold everything nice and tight. This is where the haters come in, right? Look at the size of that gap. Oh my God. Taking the cement, just gonna snow plow it over top of this trim so we got something in here making positive contact, okay? All right. Get down onto the left side first, carries the weight. Now I gotta worry about my depth here. Right about now, half you're out there screaming, what about the gap behind the tile? You don't have 90% adhesion in a wet area. No, I don't. And I'm not worried about it because I work in the real world. Now I know, if you search the internet, there's a YouTube video out there done by a company that sells the cement. And they use a glass tile and then they show you how to trowel and how to get the air escape. And then, you know, if you don't have contact, then they smash the daylights out of the tile with a hammer to demonstrate their point of how easy tile breaks when it doesn't have good adhesion behind it. So my best advice for this scenario is don't bring a hammer into the shower and everything's going to be just fine. All right, guarantee my gap. Okay, now the best thing to do when you've got this kind of situation going on is when you're happy with what you got, stop and walk away. If you got more cement, go ahead and finish up the other side. Feel free to do the niche side first and then the rest of the shower if you have to, just so you can keep going. But now you can see this tile goes right in. My patterns are lined up. I got the right stone, right? Everything is good. My grout lines are perfect. My trim edge is perfect. I can even come back tomorrow with one of these little yellow things and I can use it to clean out the grout. Wow, that's gonna be awesome. All right, let's just move on and assume it's tomorrow and we'll continue building. Welcome back to my shower. Here we are. It's the next day, everything is dry. Don't even have to think twice, right? Get this out of here. Even these little spacers. We want to put this side on here. I'm gonna need another piece here. And the idea here is, do you do the bottom first or the side? This is a big debate. If I do the bottom first, right, then I have water deflection. Any water that goes in is forced out. Except over here, it's gonna be up against this tile. So if I do this side first and then I put this ledge in, right, then I'm gonna have a grout line on both sides. Is it the end of the world? No. as long as you've got a slope, because you're going to use a silicone on all of these surfaces that are interconnecting. Okay? So I'm not going to worry about it. What I am going to do is I'm going to do the ledge first on an angle, because I can install it nice and tight over here and not rely on a grout joint and just a clear silicone bead. And then over here, I'm going to cut the other tile to sit on top of it on an angle, okay? And hopefully get the same look. But if I don't, at least it won't be ugly, and I don't have to have a grout joint on each side. Personal preference, for me, the waterproofing is in behind the tile. The rest of this is kind of like, it diverts 90% of the water. So if 10% of the water gets in behind, you better have a waterproofing system. But even without the tile, you can shower in here just with a waterproofing system. We'll do that in a video one of these days. I'll just make a waterproof shower with no tile. You can use it for a whole year while you save your money for really nice stone. Wouldn't make a difference. All right, just use this side cutter to mark the edge. Here we go. Now what I'm going to use is a piece of 1x4. I'm going to put up against the saw, hold this together, get a nice clean cut. Here we go. Now that is flipping perfect. So all of this flexibility here, right? It's exactly what we're looking for. So with the edging tight to the stone, which is not what I want here. Really hard to get a good seal from the stone to the edging when it's tight, okay? Let me show you something here. The plastic is higher than the stone. That's going to hold water, okay? So I want to install the stone more like this, with a bit of a grout line, okay? So I can fill the grout line and the stone is higher than the plastic edge. We're going to just fill this thing up with cement, and then we'll tool it back to where we want it. Makes sense? This is where a margin trowel comes in real handy, okay? So, we're going to just go like this. It really is like icing a cake, right? Okay. It's a lot easier to do this when you put way more on than you need, all right? So here's my slope. See that? 1 degree. And I'm just filling this as a substrate to the tile install now, okay? I'm not actually setting the tile on this. I am going to back butter my tile, right? So I'll put the ridges, collapsible ridges on the back of the tile and use this as my tile backer. Yeah, I'm pretty comfortable with that now. This might get a little messy. That's why you want to have your pail around, eh? With your sponge. First thing I want to do is set this in place. We'll set it out nice and wide so we can push it into position afterwards. All right. Now, these collapsible ridges should hold this tile higher than the plastic once I drop it in. It should. Well, this is how we're going to check it out. All right. Don't let anybody move. Nice and easy now. Because the job now is to move everything into position without any downward force. We'll only add the downward force once we're happy with where everything is. So, I like my plastic in a little bit more here. I don't want a shadow underneath. So my tile I want to put back a little bit. Remember, I'm still looking for a grout line here. I want the plastic lower than the tile. So I can drop it here a little bit. Okay. Take a bunch of these. These wedges, the very tip is so super thin. It's just enough to create a gap. And I'm going to just use it to clean all the extra cement out. Okay, just the tip. And use that here to create that gap for my grout line. I don't want that sticking out though, so I want the tile to be moved back. Now, here I am, and my tile is dropped a little bit too low. So I'm going to look up from underneath. There's a gap in that Schluter trim. And I'm going to push my tile up nice and high here. I'm going to reset. There we go. I don't want that too high. Okay. Remember, I want to have the water come over without obstruction. Okay. It's very, very finicky work, folks. If you're not happy, just keep puttering around until you are happy. Remember, you want a clean line, flush on the front. I'm going to use one more back here. Get rid of my extra cement. Because I want to have a silicone joint there, I don't want to have a cement in the way. The only other thing I'm going to do different here, I'm going to move these over. Take a little bit of green painter's tape. I'm going to tape that edge back, okay? And of course, we all know that tomorrow when I pull this out, the cement will still not be cured, so I'll be able to clean it up and polish it and buff it. Everything will look really nice. All right, now we got to do the side. So first I got to cut the plastic. I'm going to go from the top of the plastic edge to the bottom of the plastic edge and cut it on my saw. In case you're wondering, watching this video, hey, why is the cement white all of a sudden? We are also doing the tub resurfacing video. Changing out the fixture, doing remodel on that as well. And in that situation, I need to tile from the top down from my laser line because my old farmhouse is all over the place. So while I had Max here filming, we're just using the balance of that cement. I prefer working with this. It is $25 a bag more than the basic thin set that you can use. Whoops. But hey, since we're filming, I don't want to throw it in the garbage. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for notifications so you can watch the rest of this bathroom renovation series. We'll also put a link in the video description for the playlist so that you can start from the beginning on this. I'm just going to back butter this a little bit, make sure I get better adhesion. So now I'm going to set the plastic in. I got to get this grout line perfect. I'm going to do that for the rest of the day 1,000 times, I think. But I'm just going to use this wedge to make this gap perfect here. Okay. Okay, back butter. You want to use something here at every turn to guarantee your grout lines so that you have something that can be filled. Something that can be filled with grout is always more valuable than something that's tile on tile. Okay, there's no room for expansion, contraction, tile on tile. That joint is perfect. We'll just tape that off. Let's get this built out from the wedge. Okay, don't touch. Now we're gonna leave this a full, probably 24 hours. There's a lot of extra cement in here. We wanna make sure everything's bonded really strongly before we fool around. There is a little extra cement squeezing out over here because when I press that corner in. Other than that, I think we can all agree this is set up for perfection. Beautiful. Remember, the key to doing any tile work is always have intersecting grout lines. If you have a grain, have the grain going the right way. I could have cheated and did a 4-inch piece going right from the bottom to the top, one piece, nice and easy, but it looked like garbage. Trust me. Don't go doing things like that. Make sure every grout line on a full set of tile is going to be in anything you do, okay? You don't want to just cheat. If this stone was big enough, I could put one piece in the back. That would look ugly because there's a grout line. Make it consistent. That's all you got to do. That's really the rule of tile. And then be happy with every stone you set. If you're not happy, back it up and fix what you did wrong before you move forward because you can't change it later. Hey, welcome to part 2 of our shower video. In this video, we're going to take out all the clips, we're going to clean it up, we're going to grout, we're going to polish this up till it's perfect. I'm using a brand new grout that I've never used before. It's sold at Home Depot called Polyblend. We're going to follow the instructions for you because it tells me on the box that you have 20 minutes once you put it on the wall to start washing. The challenge today is, can I get this done in 20 minutes or am I going to have to make a second box? You all know my advice on grout is simple. You mix it, you mix the whole box, right? The only time you can cheat on that is when you're using unsanded grout that doesn't have any browns. If it's just gray, generally you can cheat. But I'm using, it's called a brown, it's bone, okay? That means there's red dye in it. Because grout's a mixture, I can't afford to have 2 different colors on the wall. I'm gonna go the whole box. I'm gonna try to do this in 20 minutes, just so that you can get an idea if you think it's gonna be something that you can accomplish. Because as a homeowner who's never tiled before, you might find that getting 2 boxes is worth the investment, because this might be a lot of work to get this done. The best thing to do when you're working fast like that is make sure everything is perfectly clean. So we're gonna start by removing the clips. We'll get this thing cleaned up. We'll show you a couple tips and tricks. Of course, cleaning is easy if you work clean, right? Follow the video from before this one to learn how to do this tile job. It's tile over tile, all right? And we're using all Home Depot products in the entire bathroom renovation series. So let's just jump into it. I got a rubber mallet. These clips are designed so that with the wedge in there, okay? Oh, give it up. All right, here we go. If you work clean, yeah, see, that wasn't even clean. It just pops right out, no problem. It's actually a lot of fun. And if you don't work clean, like right here, well, I left this one dirty on purpose for you. You can see I got a little bit of that plastic sticking out. A million people are always asking me, how do I get rid of the little plastic tabs? A, work clean, but if it happens to you, watch this. Remember, this is a glazed tile, it's porcelain. It's a very sharp edge here, okay? You can't be chipping around with metal tools. They're gonna cause you all kinds of issues. What you can do is you can take your Olfa knife on an angle, set in the bottom of the groove here, okay? And you can cut the plastic towards the middle, boom, all right? So that I'm not actually putting any pressure on the glaze. Now, as far as cleaning the cement out, you just want to pull straight through with just the tip. All right, now, if you're doing this within a couple of days of doing the cement work, you can actually just take your wet sponge and you can get this soaking wet first. It comes out a lot easier. We'll show you that in just a minute. But for now, let's just finish getting all these clips off. This is therapeutic. It should be that easy. I'm gonna just show you something real quick, because understanding these clips is the key to knowing why it's worth taking the time to work clean. Here we go. Here's the one that was just broken off, and here's the other one. Now, if I'm gonna hold them side by side, I'll show you something. Here we go. This is the part that goes behind the tile, okay? And you can see that's where it breaks off, right where the wedge pivots. Now, it doesn't pull off straight off, okay? It has to be rocked out on an edge, okay? And it tears, so there's a weak spot there, okay? Now the lash system, I'm finding it's working okay, okay? It doesn't take a lot of force to clean your tile, right? Oh, there's another one that had too much cement. Great. You'll find that there's a lot of people in the industry, in the tile clip market, and what they're doing is they're designing different clips with different weak spots in them, okay? Because I can just peel these off when I do it right. But tile guys generally work so fast, they don't have time to work clean. So what they've done is they've got a whole industry of tile clip people, and they're making tile clips for the messy tile installer. And the weak spot that tears off is so weak that even when you're compressing the 2 pieces together, they'll break on you. So it's a real art. Okay, of course, if you don't have a hammer, you can always use a tape measure. Okay, you just use the rubber side. All right. That works too, all right? But try to keep away from using metal inside your showers. All right. It's like if you're not enjoying taking your clips off, you shouldn't be renovating your house. This is the joy of renovating right here, right? You gotta be able to have a little bit of fun once in a while. Okay, I told you I was gonna use everything from Home Depot on this. So I went out and bought their whole saw kit for tile. God help us all. We're gonna use this thing and see if it works. I'm putting my own shower in the balance here. So, this is an experiment for sure. As you can see up top here, I always cut my holes as I tile, and I grind from the back side. I never have an issue with that. So I don't own one of these, but I have come to realize when working with my kids that grinding from the back of the tile is a skill set that a lot of people have trouble with. Now, if you want to learn how to use grinder tools to cut your tile, we have a video for that. You can link up in the video description. And you get cards for that as well. Let's see. Well, they have a kit here that's designed to use over and over and over and over again, eh? Okay, so basically the idea here, guys, is you take this off and you put it on here so that you can actually stick this to the wall. Cool, huh? Now, a measuring tape is 3 7/16 from this point on the arrow. Now half is 8/16, so it's just right there. That's the center of the pipe, okay? Now what we're gonna do, in here, there's these 4 raised sections, like crosshairs, okay? Makes sense? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just draw a cross and then line this up right where I want it and draw a circle inside. Okay, so now it's easy for me to line up. When you're using these particular fixtures, where I have a water supply coming out here, it supplies a hose that goes to an adjustable arm. Okay, so I got a shower wand. A lot of the fittings that go over here are actually quite small and delicate, so you don't have a lot of mercy. So you really want to get this right the first time. Nice. Of course, you've got to have it drilled with a chuck because, well, that's a smooth shaft if I ever saw one. God help us all. We're going to not use the hammer drill function, just the regular drill. We'll go on a relatively low speed. We'll see how this bad boy works. I mean, we've all used tile saws, drill bits like this before, similar styles. And what you do is if you don't have this assembly, you would basically just set the edge like this, right? Put your drill down and you hold it and you set the edge and you grind through the tile slowly, slowly. And as you get a little bit of through the glaze, you start rocking it up so that it has something to sit in, right? So it doesn't run all over the wall. It's a little tricky, all right? This just takes the whole skill factor out of the equation. The only thing I'm not liking is there's a lot of movement here. All right, so I'm gonna try to stand out of the way. I'm gonna start with the bottom down like normal, so I'm not running all over the place, okay? Oh, that's a great sound right there. Now, we're doing great. What I'm doing is I'm actually putting just a small amount of rocking motion on there. I want to make the hole I'm drilling just a hair bigger than the bit itself so that I'm not overheating it as I drill, okay? And I don't want to run a risk of, while I'm making a hole, of it binding and shearing off the tile. Very cool. Okay, I think I'm done with this now. I don't really need this protector here. That's really on there. Okay, come on guys, let go. There we go. Boy, that's really sticky stuff. That's why I love Olfa. It's like having a razor blade on you at all times, right? This is some hard stone. I'm almost halfway through. It's getting a little warm. I think I'm going to grab a sponge with some water and hopefully that'll help this work a little more efficiently. Okay, so Max is over here, he's like, he can smell it. Yeah. So basically I'm just taking a relatively damp sponge, and as I'm just pressing, the water comes out off the corner right onto my bit. Okay. We got something cored out here. Let's have a look. Temper the core sample. Okay, so that's the tile. And then we have thinset. Shouldn't there be a hole there? I'm getting really concerned here, actually. Why? There was a hole. I measured from the tile up to where the center of the hole is. I marked it down, translating that information. You know, worst case scenario, I'm in the wrong spot. I will open the other side of that wall and move that fitting to where it has to go because I'm not retiling. But this is a tile over tile project. I might just be making contact with the next layer of stone here. I gotta be careful. Ooh, there we go. Oh no, okay, we're good. That was just a big chunk of thinset that got pushed into the hole. Nice. Okay. That's right on the money. Not a bad little gizmo. I don't know how many holes you'll be able to make with it, but it's definitely got diamond tip stuff left on it. So if you're doing 1 or 2 jobs at your house, I'm going to recommend that tool. That was awesome. One thing about these tiles that I noticed, here it is. They've got these little wax elements on them, okay? But they're only on these tiles, not on the Basquiat. And I don't know what the deal is with that. But they got to be removed before we start. Now, don't forget this series, the video before this and this one is how to work in a wet area, right? If you're doing tiling like an accent wall like we did in our bedroom, if you haven't seen that video, check it out. Put the link here and down in the video description. There's different rules for tiling and wet and versus dry, okay? So it doesn't have to be this complicated. You can go check out that video. I think you're gonna like it. One thing, this is the gloss tile, but even a permanent marker leaves a mark, okay? Give a bit of this tub and tile cleaner. Let it sit for a minute or 2, okay? And I'm just gonna finish washing all of the dirt off the floor from the drilling process. Then I'm gonna get clean water and wash the walls just to make sure that all of my thinset is all removed from the grout lines and cleaned up. And then I'll be ready to move forward on the project. So that was really easy to wash, right? It's basically just get it wet. In this environment, because I'm using gray cement, if it gets wet, it goes like really dark gray. It's easy to identify. And because it's only been tiled for a couple of days, as soon as the cement soaks up the water, it hasn't cured yet, right? And so it wipes off. Next up is grouting. I'm ready to roll. Here's the polyblend grout. Now I'm going to read the instructions. Check this out. Clean it. Put in 1.4 liters of water. Here we go. Now this table isn't exactly level right now, but I put in 1.4 liters of water. Then we're going to add the whole box of grout. We're going to mix it for 3 minutes, but instead of by hand, I'm going to use my slow mixer. Then we're going to let it sit for 5 minutes. And then I'm going to give it a quick mix again. Then I'm going to apply it. Then I've got, it says here 10 to 20 minutes. That's a lot of range. And the reason there's a range as when it sets up is because there are different factors at play. How cold is your water? What's the room temperature? What's the humidity in the room? What's the temperature of the room? Okay. How much are you working it while you're working with it? All of these different factors, okay? Is the air moving? Do you have a fan on? Like be real careful. The longer you want this to be able to last, the colder the water, the less you play with it, the cooler the room you're working in, all right? That'll give you the most extension. Because it has got a polymer additive, heat will speed up the setting time and set you back to 10 minutes. What we're gonna do, because I'm using cold water, and because I'm somewhat experienced with this type of polymer grout, I'm gonna just go with a 20-minute clock. I'm gonna start setting my grout, and I'm gonna set my timer, and then when it goes off, I have to stop grouting and start washing, regardless. If I can't grout this whole shower in 20 minutes, I gotta mix another bag, okay? You cannot push the envelope on this. You're gonna pay a price. It takes longer to polish and wipe than it does to apply. Just keep that in mind, all right? It's about another 30% longer to clean it all off than it is to put it all on. So you can follow my advice about how to apply. I'm gonna show you a couple of tips and tricks. We're gonna set the 20-minute clock. We're gonna try this product out because this is available at the local Home Depot. And then it says to wash it all and then wait 2 hours and then give it another wipe. Interesting. And then it says don't touch it for a day and a half, 16 hours. Now here's the joke. Here's a polymer modified unsanded grout, and they're showing you not to walk on it. And the reason for that is non-sanded grout doesn't go in floor joints, okay? But if you add a polymer to the unsanded grout, you can use it in floor joints as long as they're small enough. This product says here, it's good for joints up to 1/8 of an inch. Now, a lot of people are using rectified tile, large format stone. They're leveling their floors. They're putting 1/8 grout line on huge, beautiful glazed tile. You don't use sanded grout in that environment. You use a non-sanded, okay? Even though it's a floor, the rules are changed, right? The old standard was unsanded on the wall, sanded on the floor. But back when that rule was in effect, floor joints were 1/4 inch wide. I mean, you almost drive a truck between your tiles, right? It's stupid. Now it's different. Now, then they're saying come back with the spray bottle product that they're selling on the shelf to put the sealer on the wall. What's up, Home Depot? That's different. The polymer modified product that I'm used to working with is called Ultracolor from Mapei. The sealer is already in the grout. It's one step. It's not two-stage. Almost identical instructions as far as applying and washing and work time. So, you know, like, because I come from the professional side of the industry where I used to put down thousands of square feet, I know which product works and what I'd like to use. This ain't it. But because it's available for you at your local store, I'm going to use it against my better judgment because now I've got to come back for another application. Now, in the industry, I'll just give you a quick little history here. Tile contractors don't seal grout. New home construction, most renovations, unless it's specifically laid out in the contract, they're using the cheapest quality, price-wise grout that they can. Basic, non-sanded grout. They're going to get it done because then they're done the job after they wipe it. You see how they say let it sit for a day and a half? If you let it sit for a day and a half, you can expect a tile contractor to come back to spray on a grout sealer. That's up to you. So if you own a new home, think about this. Your grout's not sealed. None of the floors, none of the showers, nothing. No one's using sealer in the grout, okay? Unless the builder has it in the contract. So the first thing you want to do when you get in your house is apply your sealer. Now let's move on to trying this product out, because I could sit here and talk about grout for hours, but that's not why you're here. You're here to watch us renovate a bathroom. So before I go and tell you, hey, because you have to add a sealer to this after the fact, there's no sense using a polymer modified grout. You might as well just go to Lowe's and get the Ultracolor if you're going to use polymer modified, and then the sealer's in the bag. Or you can go to Lowe's and get the Caracolor. It doesn't have the polymer modification. And then you have all day long. You literally got almost 2 hours to work with grout when you use the Caracolor. And any homeowner can grout walls with that product, Caracolor, with a K. And then you can go ahead and buy your spray-on grout sealer or brush grout sealer if you want to. I'm just saying, you got to pick your poison. Either I'm going to be in a hurry and it's going to be done and I don't have to screw around anymore, or I'm going to get a product that gives me all kinds of time and flexibility and I'll commit to a sealing process later. Making me work really fast with the risk of destroying my tile project without the benefit of a sealer, I don't really understand where we're going, but let's do this because that's the whole premise of this bathroom reno. Always add your grout to the water, not the other way around. And I didn't want that to happen. Oh my God, all right, there we go. Now Jeff's just making a mess. All right, now here we go. Now I'm just using a regular grout mixing blade here, okay? And we're gonna get this done. In all my years of grout work, I've never seen something that has the right amount of water be that dry. It tells you you can add 0.1 liters. Okay, there it is. It's just basically a wrung out sponge and then you squeeze it. That's all it is. And that might be enough. Remember, these things, they change consistency really quick, so don't overwater whatever you do. I'll show you what I'm looking at here, guys, okay? All right, so forget the directions. We're going to go with another 0.1. Here we go. I've been mixing 3 minutes with the machine, and you'll see in this grout, there's still little chunks, right? Now, if they haven't broken up yet, that's a problem, because this is my mix. It could be a chunk of red dye, I just don't know. So I gotta keep going until I get more smoother consistency. I like that. That's more what I'm looking for, okay? Okay, almost Blizzard. Dairy Queen Blizzard, almost. All right, now we're gonna let that sit for a few minutes according to the box. We'll give it another quick mix, and that'll allow whatever moisture is in that pail to penetrate all those little tiny chunks, okay? And then next time we should knock it all apart, and then we'll get a proper mixture. It'll be even thicker after the next mix. So we're gonna let that saturate. We'll get back to it. And as soon as we're done the second mix, I'll set my timer. We're off to the races. I just had to mention this real quick. You just saw me use a machine, a slow mixer designed for mixing grout with a grout mixer, and it took about 3 to 5 minutes. Now they're showing you on this box, that little tool here, okay? It's called a margin trowel. Can you imagine mixing that by hand for 3 minutes and getting the same result? That's the joke. The biggest joke is this. You know, if you go and do this project at home and you end up with big red streaks and different discoloration, and you call the company up and they say, well, you know, your grout's garbage, it's different color all over the wall, and they say, well, how did you mix it? And you say, I use a slow mixer and this. They're gonna say, well, picture says to use mix by hand, dummy. They're not gonna give you a warranty. But the truth is, there's no way in hell you're mixing that in 20 minutes by hand. So what is it? You're damned if you do and damned if you don't. Don't ever trust the warranty from companies. They have no intention of giving you one. All right, you gotta do what works. Oh, now it's a Dairy Queen Blizzard. Look at this. There's no way in hell I'm grouting the wall like that. I've got enough experience to know. The instructions on that box are setting you up for failure, guys. All right, give it a little rinse. I know the box says don't add any more water, but as soon as this stuff goes on the wall's wet, so it's gonna see more water at some point. And I need to be able to get it on the wall before I worry about it. There we go. Now that's looking pretty good. All right, I'll be honest with you, that's a nice consistency. I think it's gonna work well. Now it said I had 20 minutes, start the timer, boom. Let's go. I've already wasted 3 seconds. Okay, let's get to work here. The way I start with my grout work, start from the ground up. Always have a clean floor, because if the grout falls on your shower pan, you can still lift it back up onto the wall. Okay? Don't be afraid to just get it on and then worry about what you do with it afterwards. Even when you have small grout lines, okay? Here we go. Now, man, I really did make a mess here, didn't I? I need to work a little clean. This is ridiculous. Okay, here we go. So, we're gonna lift it up, okay, on a 45. 45 degree is this angle here, okay? and angle it this way as well. It pushes the air out of the way. On the inside corner, angle it towards the room, because in this scenario, we're trying not to fill the outside corner gap with grout. We're going to rely on our grout caulking. Okay? Now, where you're going to end up getting struggling is all of these little corner beads. Resist doing what I'm doing there, okay? You want to come off the side of the grout to fill those corners. You're going to make a mess. You're going to waste a lot of product. But if you use your fingers and rub against that edge, that cut tile is going to slice you right open. And the next 20 minutes will be you going to the emergency room. That's not what we want to work. Okay? It's okay. Everything around here is designed to be washed. So don't worry about making a mess here. Your only focus is on getting good contact and getting everything filled up. Okay? Come at it from both sides. There we go. That peanut butter in there. All right, now that side is done. Let's make sure we got enough of the product up here. Okay. So, I'm pretty sure that my lines here are filled. Just gonna make sure. And now I'm removing the excess, okay? All right. Washing is a lot quicker if you don't leave all the grout on the wall, okay? The bigger the tile and the more gloss you have, the easier this process is. All right. Let's get in and up. How are we doing here? Great. 4 minutes in. Okay. Almost done the first side. Okay. All right. I'm gonna start at the top here where I can't reach with the bench. Get this all done. All right. Do the other side on the bench. I'm just stealing grout. Right. Cleaning one side and stealing it for the other side. Right now you're probably thinking, wow, he's gonna have a lot of leftover grout. And yep, I will, but you know what, I don't care. It's not about saving the money. This is about getting the best possible job. And if I start cheating trying to save the grout for some other project, I'm not gonna have the right color. It might come out too dark. Or maybe too light. Who knows, right? I swear, I think I must have cut myself. All right, sure feels like I did. Okay. You'll notice I'm not grouting at up to the ceiling because we're going to rely on the grout caulking for this, okay? I can reach all that from this ground, so let's finish this now. There we are. Watch my phone, I don't want to get covered in grout. All right, there we go. Now this is work, guys. Okay? Don't deceive yourself in thinking this isn't work. But do yourself a favor and resist the temptation to use a fan while you're doing this. That air movement is going to make that set up so fast. Let's get the extra grout here now. Okay. So I'm where I can get this bench out of my way. Beautiful. 14 minutes. I'm a rock star. I've only been at it for 6 minutes, max. Not bad, eh? Whew, okay. Okay. Here, 13 minutes left. I'm at a point here where I'm not feeling any pressure now. I know I'm going to be able to get this done. So that's good. Now, oh, one of those waxy things is on the tile. Darn. Hey. Turn another one over here. Okay. Okay. Now, these plastic edges, you want to grout both sides. Make sure you really go to town with this. Okay. Just if for no other reason, make sure that you got something in that gap, because we won't be siliconing that gap later. Now this one we intentionally left a good gap on it, right? In the other video before this, I showed you how to set this all up with the spacers. Here we go. Another one of those things. Yeah. Okay. 11 minutes. Right on. Almost done the most difficult part. All right. Boom, boom, boom. Another one of those waxy things. What a pain. I surely should have paid more attention to that, eh? Okay. 11 minutes left. Put that back. Okay, let's get up here. Haven't done this yet. This is already getting more difficult to work with because you'll find that because it's so long since I washed, the wall is all dried out now. So it's not adding moisture to the grout anymore as I work it. So now it's starting to get thick. Just for the record, if you're thinking about your own projects, consider using stone that requires a bone grout or a white grout or a lighter dark gray, okay? Try to resist the temptation to get fancy with those other colors. And the reason that is so is a lot of those other colors, they haven't done a very good job with perfecting the tile grout silicone, all right? And so the colors are always gonna be a little bit weird. And then you have to grout everything and then rely on clear silicone after the fact. And it doesn't protect your joints as well. And then your grout will end up cracking and you'll be able to see that. And that just won't look very nice. Okay? Here we go. I am done. Double check. Caulking joints, finished. Caulking joints up the side. Right, so there we go. That's finished. 8 minutes left, okay? It was 12 minutes. I can start washing now. Okay, look how dry that is. It's like rubbing off. Okay. Wow, yeah. No reason to wait for it. Beautiful. Well, I'm going to turn off my phone. Actually, Max, can you throw that somewhere for me, buddy? Thank you. And we're going to start the washing process. First thing you wash is your tool. Okay? If this float gets the grout on there for an hour without getting washed off, you just throw it in the garbage. It's done. And granted, the polymer stuff works really well, right? I mean, it's a good quality grout as far as bonding concerned. That polymer in there is a really good bonding agent. Okay, there we go. Now that's nice and clean. All right, you're gonna wanna have at least 2 pails. Okay, the first one you're gonna wanna wash everything and take most of the grout off. The second pail you're gonna actually use to clean this tile, okay? Because it leaves less haze. Okay, you see that? The gap next to the plastic edge here. Now the finishing on this edge is going to be a caulking joint, put on with a wet sponge and then painted up to the plastic. All right, so I don't want to have any extra grout sitting there. That's important. Wring your sponge out. For this application, we're just wiping the excess grout. That's it. Okay, we just want to make sure that this is going to be manageable when it's time to buff. And this is not the time where you worry about if you have, you see a gap in the grout line. Okay, save all of the minor repairs that you're going to want to do on your work for during the second sponging. Okay, right now you're just managing the polymer more than anything else right now. Let's just get all this extra stuff out of our way. All right. The good news is it's not going to bond to your acrylic shower base. I just don't like getting it all over my shoes. Okay, so now it's very important that you just wipe all the excess off, okay, in the same order that you applied it. Because it should take about the same amount of time to wipe this down as it did to put it on. We're not going to make you watch me do 15 minutes of washing, but this is just the first wash. Go across your grout lines contrary to the grout, at least 45. So it's the same as when you put it on, you take it off the same way. 45's okay. And that'll make sure that you rub it in and leave it nice and flush with the surface. If you go with the line, you're going to gouge it all out. All right, I'll get this done and I'll have you join me for the second wash. All right, guys, take a little bit of the grout. It's like an eraser. Okay, you're gonna find a couple of air holes. Big deal. You rub it in. Leave it messy so you know you have to work it. Now, the reason I grouted from the bottom up and then around the top is because I knew when it came time to wash that if I was in trouble, I would want to wash the hottest part of the room first. So I washed up and I got up here, and the heat from 6 feet and up is usually almost 10 degrees warmer in your house than the rest of your house. So So this is why it sets up a lot faster, and I wanted to be ready to just do these top couple rows. Everything looks pretty good here. Okay, if you miss anything, patch it up. Now's the time to do it. Okay. We're gonna give those patches a couple minutes to set up. Now we've got clean water. All right, and now I'm just gonna go, it's a little bit boring, but this is how you get rid of your grout haze, okay? Clean your ceiling as well. And we're gonna be painting it anyway, but you set your brush, go a couple of feet, you turn it over, you set it a couple of feet, walk away, okay? The first time you touch it with a sponge, you're removing excess grout. The second time, you're removing haze, okay? And you don't want to have too much water in there. And you pick up the haze and you walk away. If you wipe it again, you're just going to wipe new haze off and leave old haze behind. So, this is about time and patience. Get 3 grout lines, that's plenty. Next time I come, I'm going to be starting here. 1, 2, 3, and doing 3 more grout lines, right? All right, my touch-up is done and clean. And then we just go around the whole room and do the same thing, right? So we're gonna do this. Now here's the trick. I have a horizontal grout line that needed repairing. I can't wipe horizontally. I'm gonna set it, press at the bottom, and then just wipe up. Okay? That's all I can do. And I think the reason it needed repairing is because I probably went sideways with the sponge at some point. Okay, so I'll clean that tile beneath the grout line like that, and above the grout line like that. Get it clean. There we go. Okay, now guys, if you're following this tutorial as a guide so you can do your own tile work, consider this. The water that's in this pail right now should not go down your drains, okay? What you want to do is take your sponge out, give it a good wring, and you want to leave that pail with that water, and all of the polymer and all of the grout will settle to the bottom, okay? Overnight. Usually takes about 12 hours. After that, you can take it outside. You can pour that water into the lawn or into a ditch, and then let it dry for a day or two, okay? And then you can just turn it upside down, give it a slap in the backside of the old pail there, and that big chunk of crap will just pop right out and you can throw it in the garbage, okay? You don't want to risk clogging up your drain system, and then you can even have a clean pail when you're finished. All right, there's a handy dandy tip from someone who's had to learn the hard way. Yeah, that was a back charge I did not appreciate. All right, here we go. That's my wife. Must be lunchtime. One more thing. This grout, please let it dry. Seriously, okay? Don't be in a hurry to start doing other work. I would suggest probably 2 days before you even put your fixtures on. If you're in a hurry, put a fan in here, okay? Just lightly point at the ceiling, get some air movement. Turn on the bathroom fan, get the moisture out of here. But yeah, okay? Don't be in a hurry. This is a 20-minute challenge. Now the alarm went off and I was about 2 minutes away from being done washing. So it took me 20 minutes to apply it and wash it off. Give you an idea, a large format tile, there's not a lot of grout line, but if you're working with smaller tile, you'd be surprised how long it takes you to even get the grout on. So be careful. If you're gonna use that quick set stuff, make sure you got a large format tile on the wall. You'll be just fine. All right, we're back. And it's been a couple days. We've let this really dry and set up, okay, and cure. Remember when I washed, I was wiping off the residue of the grout. And even when you do that, you're still gonna get a fine dust, okay? So it's important you take a rag of some sort and have a little tool on you like this, because I've also painted the whole room since then, right? Because we want to have a finished painted surface before we do all of our caulking and silicone. It's kind of like one of the last steps. So we're going to clean all of the tile down. We're going to add all the plumbing fixtures, right? But I'm going to do the tile caulking around the ceiling and work from top down. So I'll do the tile caulking around the top. I'll put in the plumbing fixtures. That's in a lot of cases going to cause dust and debris to fall, especially when I drill through the tile. So that's why you want to work from top down, always being sensitive to the fact that silicone takes 24 hours to really cure, and you don't want to be working on top of fresh silicone. That's the secret. All right, and you're just rubbing quick wipe. This is not really rocket science. I don't even know if the camera's gonna be able to pick up the difference that I'm making here, but I can see it in the gloss that the dust is gone. And the reason I want the dust gone is there's one more step after I'm done polishing this, and you can see all the dust on the rag, right? So obviously there's a residue there. One more step is to seal the grout. Now with large format tile, sealing the grout is actually really important because it can trap moisture in behind the wall, all right? So you want to just get this all cleaned off. Now remember, we're using Home Depot products, and the Home Depot product actually calls for using a grout sealer with their unsanded polyblend grout, which is unique because it's a quick dry grout that still needs to be sealed. And since we're doing this video specifically on their product line, I'm going to follow their steps, but if I'm going to go use a polyblend grout, I'm a polymer modified grout, I'm going to go and buy the Ultra Color from Mapei because the sealer's already in it and it saves a whole step. But this is what it is. All right, not everybody has a Lowe's in their neighborhood. So if that's you, you'll be able to follow this video and be successful, which of course is the most important key, right? Being competent with your work is the first thing. Once you're competent, then you can worry about being efficient. All right? Getting all this ladder work done first. I felt something there. Here we go. Now I'm gonna get a new rag and I'm gonna do the bottom half, maybe even a couple more. All right, you can't just keep polishing with a dirty rag or you're just gonna leave more dirt on the top. So here's the grout sealer that they're selling. It's a Surface Guard Tile Lab. They're carrying a whole line of Tile Lab products, okay? So this is not new. The directions are behind the flip tab. And they basically say, you know, put it on, and then after 5 minutes, wipe off the excess. Okay. Well, this is a gloss tile, so there's no penetrating sealer going into the tile. It's just the grout. And I don't want to make a great big mess for myself. So what I'm going to do is I'm just spraying down the corner of my sponge. All right. And I'm just going to go like this. And you'll see that the grout actually turns a darker color right away. So you know if you've got it wet. Okay. This is just going to be an easier way for me to manage whether I know that it's got sealed or not. And you can use those little paint brushes too if you like. Pour some of this into a glass or something. Use a little paintbrush. Those little foam brushes that they sell, they're like disposable. Here we go. And this doesn't look like much is going on, but the reality is that a sealed grout doesn't let the water penetrate in behind it. It's just one more layer of protection, okay? There we go. Excuse me, I'll just finish off this process and we'll move on to the next one. Well, it took about 5 minutes, perfect. Right, now it's time to just go back, follow my same steps, and just wipe off all the excess, right? Now this sealer, it tends to have like almost like an alcohol effect on the gloss. It just evaporates. So if it's not penetrating, it's not sealing anything. It's actually real easy to wipe off. Look at that. Beautiful. So it looks like it's going to take me another 5 minutes to finish wiping all this off now. That's great. So 10 or 15 minutes, you can have your grout sealed. Big surprise. Just don't be in a hurry to get wet. All right, always check the instructions before you use something. Bathrooms are finicky that way. There's a lot of products in a bathroom that have drying time and curing time and working time, and you need to understand the product before you use it. Here we go. All right, guys. Now here we are. Let's talk about the two products we're going to use in the shower, okay? And the reason I'm buying everything from Home Depot, again, is so that you can manage your expectation. I have no idea how this is going to turn out. These are not products that I use, but that's what they sell. So we're rolling the dice. They sell an almond color, which from the tip should be about the color of its finish, right? So that'll be a nice caulking edge. This is just a regular kitchen, bathroom, mold, mildew kind of resistant silicone. And I'm going to use that on some of these really thin lines just to get a good seal. But on these thicker lines around the ceiling, I'm using a bone what do they call this? Ceramic tile caulking. Okay, let's go with number one. First step, I have a rather significant gap on that side. So I'm gonna cut a medium tip for the first two sides, like that. Sharp knife, 45 degrees, gives you lots of control. I'm gonna go a much sharper angle though. There we go. So when I'm applying it, I can go like this and keep a tight bead, or I can go like this and open up and get a nice wide one, all right? That is really the secret to this. It takes a little bit of practice. If you're not used to it, go grab yourself a cardboard box and a tube of caulking, all right? And then just practice caulking all the corners on the inside of the box. Throw it all away. $10, it'll be enough experience so you can do this like a pro, all right? Here we go. Let's try this bad boy out. Hopefully we like this product. You know, I had this happen before with these types of silicone. They start out like a bottle of mustard that's never been shaken. And they're just runny. I don't understand that. Okay, don't like the consistency of this product at all. Maybe you're supposed to shake it first. Okay. It takes a little getting used to here, that's for sure. Really want to work clean. So now I'm going to come from the other side, and then I'll be able to finish up together. The less you touch this kind of stuff, the better, okay? One wet finger wipe. If you want to get right up and tight, okay, and get some grout away, wrap your 4-inch knife, set it, and then like swipe it down, okay? You can get the excess off the tile without disturbing the bead. This stuff is not really workable. Remember, you really got to get it right the first time. It's a little on the frustrating side. You might find that just using regular silicone will work better for you, especially if you don't have a lot of experience working with that product. Again, try not to use any pressure. They make a caulking tool, all right? And it's got a contoured edge, and you can use that to wipe this stuff in. It's a little bit better than your finger because of the safety factor, right? That is a cut tile, and if you're not careful, you just slice your hand open trying to draw a nice edge here. And there we go, push that in. That takes some getting used to with that big of a gap. Let's try going back and filling it over. I'm just going to clean up my mess that I made here. Looks pretty nasty at the moment, doesn't it? I can come by after this is all set and do some touch-ups. That's what we're gonna do. And before I break open the second tube and finish this off, I'll do that all off camera. Let's get out the silicone and I'll show you how to use that in the tighter spot, okay? Good silicone will have a cap, all right? Gotta yank that off. We're making a small hole. Even has rings on the tip here and it kind of lines up where your angle should be. I'm gonna go with that. That'll be nice. Again, experience pays here. Start small. If it's too small and it's not filling the gap and creating a bond from one side of the tile to the other side of the tile, then just cut the hole bigger. But start small. Remember, the reason we're using this instead of grout is because expansion contraction can leave the grout in the corner to chip. Now, in some cases, you've seen me do videos where I grouted and then added clear silicone. That's an option. If you have nice gaps, you can just go with straight silicone. Okay, it's preferred. It's more of an industry standard. Oh, stupid me. You gotta pierce the hole. Okay, which means I'm gonna start into a rag, get the goop from my puncture stick out of there. Here we go. Same thing, just a little bit of a smear now. Make sure it's closed on both sides. That's all you need. Okay? Ta-da! Now, if you find that you leave too much on the tile, go back with a dry thumb. You can just run the edge there. Okay? And then smooth it in again. After 2 minutes of that being on there, don't touch it again though, okay? Your working time is very short. So work in small sections at a time if you need to, so you can accomplish your goal. When you're done, put the top back on so you can use it again later, all right? If the phone rings, put the top on. You don't want to have a dry chunk come out because then you're wiping it out and then you're making a mess and then 30 seconds later it's starting to cure and So that is the plan. All right, I'm gonna get the rest of this done. And I remember this was my wall mount for the hose, okay, for the back wall. And that's the perfect size for the last wall system. We've added a 1/2 inch. The good news is they sell these NPT 1/2 inch pipe threaded things in 1/2 inch increments. All right, so now this is the perfect size. I already know it. This is what makes this so much fun. Now, I don't know exactly where the perfect thing is going to be on this as far as the depth is concerned. I'm going to go with 3 runs on this tape, okay? Because the new one's on back order. Now, worst case scenario, this one's solid brass. I can clean it up if I had to. It's just not the same design line. But welcome to the supply chain issues of modern day, okay? Okay, all I have to do is get that in straight. There we go. Okay, so that's installed as it needs to be for now. I'm also going to put a couple of runs of tape on it. Now that is all established and ready to go. Okay. Okay, next up is overhead. This shower head is really high up there and it's lovely. Whenever you're doing a rain shower head, consider making it nice and high. The further the water drops, the faster it falls, the more impact it has on your hair. Women love using a rain shower, especially when it's really high up, because there's enough impact with that water. Water pressure builds as it falls to wash the soap out of a lot of hair, right? Brilliant idea. Well, here we go. This particular stuff, again, this is all Rebel Pro. Here's the cap, all right? And it comes with a rubber gasket. And so there's no set screw. You just slide this over. And then when you're done, you can slide it back in place and it's not gonna ever move. Okay, so it works out great. Now, we're gonna put some thread on here. This, of course, is a plumbing connection inside the wall. It's one of the most crucial that you get. So I go 3 times around the top and then I work my way towards the stub. I'm gonna go 6. Sometimes I've gone as much as 10, depending how much I trust the company. The good news is that Rebel Pro, all of these brass fittings, not plastic, these are all manufactured in Canada. They're not overseas, all right? So at least we have a little bit more quality control with our production here in this country. And if something goes wrong, it's nice to know that they're in the same country as you. All right, now, I'm a little too short for this. I'm gonna go get my ladder and get up there and tighten it up properly. All right, now I'm using medium strength. Probably is gonna seal, but I know I can get one more rotation out of this bad boy, so I'm gonna take it. And that's where it gets difficult. 2 hands. I've never once had a situation where the pipe broke under the strength trying to thread it, okay? So, you know, at least I have that comfort. Almost there. Perfect. Let's check this bad boy out. I don't know about you, but you need the washer so it doesn't leak out over the top and make a mess. It's optional if you want to leave the screen in, okay? In this particular case, I'm going to leave the screen in because I don't have a screen in anywhere else in the water system here. And so if I'm gonna get any chunks coming through the water line from the old pump and the old water lines downstairs, I wanna make sure that that's gonna work. Now we don't need Teflon here, we have a gasket, okay? So we're just gonna, really simple, we're gonna go backwards until it clicks. Right there. Did you hear that, Max?
Oh yeah.
Nice. Okay. Now that's as tight as I can go with by hand. We're gonna take the foam packaging that comes with the plumbing. I'm gonna use that, wrap it around the chrome. Okay, here we go. That way we don't damage anything. Now that is about as slim and sexy as you're gonna get, right? That actually gives you good water pressure when it's nice and thin because the water is forced into all these little holes under a lot of pressure. Can't wait to turn that on and see how it looks. Next up is a Riobel Pro shower system. Bum, 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 bum. Okay. Now, I've got stainless steel screws and plugs. We're gonna need those. I've got directions. I'll keep that. That's for later. I hope they never change. Right? That is a really quality hose. You give that a couple of days of being installed and it's gonna hang really nice. There you go. Good plumbing is all in the quality of the hose, eh? We wanna get the information for the distance between the set screws. There's gonna be one mount at top and bottom. Okay, so we wanna get that information. There are two different options. The round head and the square one. So you gotta pick because apparently they get set at different heights. That is really interesting. So that I'm reading the right product literature, okay. My holes are 29 and 7/8. All right, you gotta decide if you want it on the left or on the right, okay? It doesn't really make a difference. For me, because the hose is on the right, the hose mounts, if this is my rod, I want the hose to go down and come up this side. So I'm gonna go that way, and it's easier to operate with your thumb this way than upside down, right? So I'm gonna slide that in the hole. All right, and it's like just one finger operation. This is brilliant, right? That's really high quality, especially for aging folks. If you've got like arthritis or something, that's what you wanna have. You don't wanna have a knob you have to turn to make an adjustment, okay? Here we go, enough salesmanship. Let's get on with this. Right. Now, I happen to know that these parts are plastic for a reason, okay? And these are made overseas. So I'm going to confirm my gap is exactly as the instructions. You never really know. Call me crazy, but I like to double check and triple check when it comes from overseas. So 20 7/8 works. Now we just want to find the right location. Okay, so it operates as a wand from up here. All right, I kind of like that because everything here is so tall. I just want to get this evenly spaced from the grout line so it looks really nice. And I want it on the center line underneath the lights. Okay, that's a really good spot for me. So we're gonna throw a center line on this bad boy. 16.5. Wow, that's actually really good. Okay, so I'm gonna go 3 inches below the grout line and I end up 3 1/4. That's really nice. Okay, and then one here on the red line, 29 7/8. For this, I've got a diamond tip bit, which creates a number 8 size hole, which is perfect for the plugs and screws. Make sure you get the right fit for this. The trick here is, you remember when we drilled this hole in the previous video? We don't have the luxury of that little guide, so we are gonna start with the battery on the wall and just use the side and brace myself so I can start a hole and then slowly line it up, okay? Now I got a nice little crater there. So we're gonna use the sponge again. This thing starts to get hot. It just doesn't work when it's hot. Okay, we're gonna just set the sponge here. This is gonna take a minute. I think I've used this bit one time too many. Oh yeah, she's done.
Okay.
Oh yeah. There's nothing left at the top. But that is way too clean and smooth and at the top. I think I'm down to shaft. Yeah, damn it. Back to the store I go. I don't have another one of these bits here today. Bugger. Good news, Home Depot also sells a rather simplified version of a glass and tile bit that I've used before and it always works, so I'm gonna switch over to that. I just came back from shopping. This is my plug kit that I like to use when I'm doing fixtures. It says it's a 1/4 inch drill bit on this, and that's the diameter of the hole that it makes. So when you're doing tile, you want to make sure that you're using the same size plug, right, the yellow plugs, as the hole you're making. So this one here is a 1/4 inch glass and tile bit, okay? And it's more like a spade. It does really good at starting holes because it has a very small pinpoint that it starts with, and then it'll get rid of the glaze for you. Once you've started your hole, then you can stick one of these bad boys in there, because then you don't have to fight with it. You don't have to hold it in the right position while you grind your hole and risk wrecking your tile job. So that's what we're gonna do. When you put in the plug, you add some silicone. So I'm just gonna finish drilling the holes and then we're gonna mount this thing. So here we go with the glass and tile bit. We're gonna start a hole. There we go. That only took a half an hour. It's another good reason to consider using ceramic tile. There we go. Beautiful. Got 2 holes out of that one bit. But there's 2 layers of well, actually, yeah, it's porcelain on the other side too. That's a lot of porcelain. It's a good bit. I would buy that one before I bought the Milwaukee when they're selling at the Home Depot. This is like this looks like a professional tile bit, but it's just not drilling the hole properly, right? I would use this one any day of the week. And you know, you're not supposed to, but because they tell you if you're drilling a hole, you don't use the hammer drill function. But the truth is this works so much faster. Without it, that takes a long time. My goodness. So I'm taking the plugs and I'm going to use these stainless steel screws that come in the package. Okay. And for added protection, I'm going to fill the holes with silicone before I put the plugs in. You might think this is a little overkill, and in a lot of cases it is, but this particular shower has probably a good 30 or 40 year lifespan ahead of it, so why not make sure that every aspect of this is a 40-year lifespan. All right. Okay, let's have a good look. So what I'm doing is I'm just taking a good look. This is the part that's going to come in contact with the wall. But this actually comes in contact with the wall, and this is a 1/16 of an inch off. It's just enough room for the head of that plastic plug so it can stay on the surface. All right, so we're going to leave that alone. Depending on the manufacturer, you might need to take your knife and cut the heads off. All right, but if you can leave it on, it just makes it all that much stronger, right? Now, there we go. We use the blade of the knife to get the cap started. We take those off, and the screw right down the middle. Again, get on the right side so you're over the shoulder. We're going to put silicone in the hole. Okay. Okay. You just want to tighten it until it's not making any independent movement, okay? You don't want to over tighten. All these fittings here are plastic, so you do have to be somewhat careful. Now, for the top part, also comes off, so we got to be really careful here. This is all about the process. We got the screw set. We're gonna get some more silicone right in that hole. I'm gonna hold the drill with the screw and then set the rod in place. Okay. There we go. Snap our caps in. That's it, okay? No need to bother putting any silicone in there on the caps. Remember, the screw is a stainless steel. When this is all said and done, if you want to protect your screw even a little bit more, you can feel free to put a little clear silicone just around the edge here, on the top and the bottom, to keep water from getting in behind. Never silicone the bottom of something so that you have the ability, if water does get in behind, it can also drain. Make sense? All right. Here's this little pipe that I put in before. I took it out to double check the measurement. So I'm gonna add another little bit of Teflon on here for both ends. Now, the wall angle that I purchased is still on back order. So I cleaned up the old one and we're gonna use it for now. Now I tested it and it was almost a perfect fit. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add just a little bit of thread sealer on here. Okay. Yes, you can add thread sealer and Teflon in the same space. No, most guys don't. But when in doubt, having that extra lubrication is the difference between getting this thing in the right position or being stuck going sideways, right? So you don't have an option here. So instead of over tightening everything, we can go gentle. Get that in there. The best part about doing both threads at the same time is I can't over tighten this and leave the inside loose. Okay? There we go. Now the $1,000,000 question is, can we get another full rotation out of that? And to answer that, you got to decide how much wiggle room do you have. I think we can get away with it. All right. And let's get it in position. There we go. Woohoo! Okay, I'm just gonna get reorganized here and then we'll put the covers on here and we'll attach the hose. All right, so now we are going back with our covers. All right, here we go. Okay, now remember the gap on the bottom where the foam isn't is the one you want down. Same rule if water gets in behind. We don't want it that far back. It even goes over here. Yeah. There it is. Okay, now tighten the set screws. Both of these have washers, okay? This one has a marker on it for where the flow comes from, because one end is designed to sit in the cradle and one end is designed to be attached to the water supply. So you want to make sure you don't get that confused. Water supply first in this scenario. Should be able to tighten that finger tight without needing a wrench. Okay. This particular model adjusts as well, so you can even use this as a shower like that and adjust your jet settings. Okay, brilliant. Now, give that one good hot shower and this whole cable will relax in position. That'll be nice. Okay, so that's one fixture. Positive stops in between, which is awesome. Okay, everything's working. Yay. Okay, so the last step here obviously is to wipe down your floor, let it dry, like really dry. Put a fan on it if you need to, if you want to finish the same day, or just wait till tomorrow. Come back and then you do the silicone on the base and install a door or a shower curtain, whatever works best for you. As you can see, you don't always have to go back to the very beginning to make a great transformation. Okay, so this part of the video is going to be just really just information based. It's not going to be a step-by-step install. I don't want to be the guy that makes an installation video for every kind of door on the market in every scenario. I'll do that for a whole year, right? It's not helpful. But what we are going to do is we're going to share the thinking process, the design process, so that you order the right door. Okay? Remember, when you are building a shower, your pan has got a certain size, but it gets attached to the framework. And then we add a tile backer board or cement board or water resistant drywall or whatever have you of 1/2 inch. Then we're adding thin set and tile. So your build out is almost 1 inch on each side. So usually, if it's a brand new build, you'd have a 34-inch space. On tile, now I'm 33. And now when I measure this across, I actually end up at 32 3/4, okay? So when you go to the hardware store, and this is part of the reason why we did this, because you can buy all this at Home Depot. They make these Insight is the model, all right? And it's called a pivot door, which means it has a piece of hardware where the door is hinged, it's swinging on a hinge. It's not a slider. And small spaces, you gotta have a hinge door. And it'll give you 2 numbers. And this is the range, okay? The hardware itself has got a bracket that attaches to the glass that you can adjust with a drill. And you can slide the pin over the bracket up to 1.5 inch distance from one to the next. So what you end up doing is, when you get this kind of a package, you first take the instructions and you gotta read through them all right? To make some sense of it, because every company is a little different. In this particular situation, one side of the door has got 3 pieces of aluminum track that can be built out, which is really mind-blowing. So let's take a look at this. So here we are. Obviously, this is the piece that the door will close against. Okay, the door itself has a magnetic track on it. And here's a piece of track that you could use, all right, because I like to be able to put, this is actually the middle piece, believe this or not. Okay, you ready? There we go, there's the middle piece. This is the piece that actually gets attached to the wall, okay? And the fun part here is, you would put a silicone adhesive on there. Now they tell you to line this up and drill holes. We already know how hard it is to drill a hole around here. But then the second track sits right in it. It has a little groove. Here, check that out. They stack together, kind of like a Lego block. Okay, all right. And then the door track would fit inside of it, and you would actually put the screw through both pieces of trim. The holes line up. And then you put the door track inside of this one. There we go. And that's how you would get the build out for a really small shower. Well, my shower is a 33. So it would stand to reason that I wouldn't need this much build out, right? But the truth of it is even when I fully extend the door on the hinge, I measured it off in advance. This is a little bit more than I need, right? But instead of using this piece with that track up against that wall, I'm gonna cheat and use this piece up against the wall with the silicone. And then I'm gonna come by and install this track. And here's the cool part. I'm gonna show you when we do the installation later, but my thinking is this. Since I have a little bit of mercy here, I can make adjustments for level, okay? And I can take a point and I can pre-drill a hole through both pieces of metal. And I have a special cap, like a dish with a screw and then a snap-on chrome cap that I can get. And I can do that from the inside, obviously, so it's more decorative. And I can get this lined up perfectly, all right? I like that flexibility. So that's how I'm gonna do it. That means I need these two pieces. So this one is gonna go on this side. This track goes on this side. Now, here's where it gets a little weird. In all the years that I was working and we'd have custom glass installers come on site, never once did these guys ever drill anything into the tile. Okay? They simply used the structural silicone, put painter's tape on it, and then came back the next day. That's what we're gonna do. In a lot of cases, they would use two-sided tape and then silicone on the back of the track and stick it all in place, okay? And then they would silicone the outside edge, tape it, mark it, do the whole install, and then let everything set up afterwards. Blows your mind. There's really no need to be pre-drilling holes and putting penetrations in the wall. If you use the right kind of silicone and tape it in place, she's not going anywhere, all right? That's what I'm gonna do. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna start this video right after it's all set up, okay? And then we can show you how to assemble the door and make the adjustments, because I think that'll be a lot more valuable than watching me put silicone and tape everywhere. So you're gonna have to figure that out for yourself. Every shower is gonna be different. And these kits come, these doors, they come in these increments, okay? So they actually carry like 5 or 6 different sizes in the store locally, which is really handy. So make sure you measure properly for the finished space. If you're gonna order a door or something like that, you've really gotta consider, how level is my wall? Am I gonna be building it out? Am I adding a 1/2 inch thin set or a 1/4 inch and collapsing it? So it's always best to try to order something like this after you're finished the tile. Don't guess in advance, because it's just gonna be very frustrating. These are actually in stock. It was really, really handy. All right, so now it's time for me to install the door, and I've read through all the instructions. I've got my parts out. I understand the process. It's not that tricky, step by step, just follow their advice. Earlier I mentioned how I was going to install the track for the door and just use my structural silicone and two-sided tape to set it in place. I did that, and I came back and I took a look at it, and I wasn't really happy because when I finished reading the instructions, I realized there was no top rail. This is a frameless door, right? There's only a frame on the left and right side. There's nothing across the top. So in reality, there's nothing to keep the weight of that door from pulling away from the wall over time. So in hindsight, I decided to go back, and even with the frame installed, I was able to go with a 3/16 bit, glass and tile bit, okay, to get through the porcelain and the glaze. And then I used a 3/16, one of these bad boys here. It's a masonry drill, and put it in my hammer drill, and it punched the hole in no time. And I was able to set a couple of those screws on each side. That's always an option. I usually use 1/4 inch bits, but 3/16 worked just fine. And then I was able to use the stainless steel screws in the package to fix it all in place. I did have framing in the wall set up earlier. Whenever you're installing anything in the way of a plumbing fixture, tub, shower, always anticipate someone's going to install a door later on and put framing in the wall, and it'll save your bacon. Okay, here we go. We'll show you the assembly, and then I'll show you a few key points for when you're setting a door in place, because this is a safety glass. You can tell because it's got a stamp. Okay, safety glass always comes with a stamp to prove that it's safety glass, which means that if I use the wrong kind of pressure or put pressure in the wrong place, it'll just shatter. That's actually happened to me on a job site before. Something like this, only shorter. For a Neo angle shower, I set the corner, I lined it up, started sliding it back, and the corner of the glass hit a screw head that was protruding just a little bit too far in the track. Yeah, You can't just go to the store and buy a replacement, right? You have to call the manufacturer, they have to ship it out special, it takes weeks. It'll drive you crazy. So when you're working with this stuff, be really careful to follow all the instructions. Read it, and then read it again, and then follow it after, okay? That's all I can say. No two system in the world is exactly alike, and there are hundreds of different manufacturers out there making this stuff. So my suggestion is be careful. There's a company out there, I think it's OVE, right? They make great products, but their glass is 10 millimeter. That's ½ inch. Their products are incredibly heavy, all right? We bought one of their shower kits once and it took 4 grown men to carry it upstairs. It was unbelievably heavy. It should be in 3 boxes, not 1. I don't know what they're thinking. So try to stick to the thinner glass. This is like a 3/8. It's a lot lighter. You'd be surprised the difference 40 pounds makes, all right? Okay, now, they suggest to put this on facing away from the magnet, all right? And that's the bottom, and that's the top. It fits evenly, great. So just start with one side. There we go. And just a word of warning, don't just run your thumb along to push it down. It'll get incredibly hot really fast and you'll be burned before you realize what happened. That too, I learned the hard way. Okay, that is the inside of over here. This is the outside of the glass. That's where the decorative part goes. Here we go. We get to set that up. It's funny because, you know, you can always use these compression fittings through glass. As long as the metal's not in contact with the glass and you've got these plastic fittings, you can put all kinds of pressure on the glass. It's really strange. In these situations, don't be afraid to over tighten. If you go too loose, it'll just loosen up on you, okay? To date, I have not been in a situation where I've been able to over tighten this. Here goes everything. So now I gotta get it on my shoe so I can get my hand underneath it. Pick it up. And we're gonna set this thing in place. Now it comes with a bracket that goes on the very bottom. Oh, 1 second. There's a little plastic piece that goes in the hole. That's the same size. Yeah. And that's about here. Craziest thing I've seen. I need to really make an adjustment here. I have to adjust this hinge to make this door as wide as possible now. So that's the widest it'll go. We'll bring this into position, set it on the bracket. Yes, it's gonna be too wide. We're gonna back it up about a ½ inch. Okay. Okay. That's perfect. Now I'm in position where I can install this bracket, right? Again, we gotta put the extra plastic wheel on here. We gotta set that down. All right. I've also got that really in a bad spot. Had no mercy for the install up there. And then that happens. Okay. Try that again. This is one of these moments you've just got to say to yourself, I'm gonna drive myself nuts. It's gonna be frustrating as hell. I'm gonna get through it. I'm not gonna lose my temper. 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 Okay. Now, believe it or not, I'm supposed to now, God, get a little tiny screw in place here to hold this bracket. Petrified, oh, of the door coming off. Okay, this ain't gonna work. And I'm talking about the guys who made this door. What the hell are they thinking? There is a little set screw in here, so I'm going to tighten it, which creates compression from the hinge and the outside panel. And I'm going to just tighten that so that nothing's slipping around anymore. Now I can use both hands. Okay. Maybe, just maybe, with my big fat fingers, I can get these tiny little pieces together. Boy, oh boy. Yeah, good luck with that. I need a longer drill bit. I can't get my drill to line up because I need a longer drill bit. That's hilarious. I need to go get my 6-inch drill bit now. Be right back. Times 4 or 5 inches just isn't gonna do. You gotta pull out the big guns. Just so you can get the right angle. Okay. Whew. All right. Right, now what we want to do is we want to level this off. We want to kind of square this up so that it's sitting in the hole properly before we bring in the next track. Okay. Good. Yeah, it's funny. I was more concerned at the very beginning that I wasn't going to have enough room. My hole was going to be too big. But now I'm loving it. Okay, so I don't need this anymore. That was temporary, okay? What I want to do is I want to get the last piece of track. All right, this track goes inside of this one. Here's my track, and I have to drill from the back side in 3 spots to make a hole the right side for my machine screws. So I push it all the way in. Bring the magnet over. Snaps out the track exactly where I want it. Now in this situation, as soon as you feel yourself go through that second piece, since it's just a hole, there's no other glass or anything, you're fine. Stop what you're doing, get yourself a set screw, line this up. Okay. Hopefully this works. It's always a terrifying moment because the hardware they bring you is usually really soft alloy. And because that felt a little bit too tight, this time I'm going to drill the hole and I'm going to give it a little bit of wiggle room just to open up a hair more. There we go. This time I'm feeling a lot more confident. I don't want the thread to have to fight that hard getting in that hole. Perfect. One for the bottom. Okay. Next thing is the handle, relatively tight. The washer will compress at that point without putting all that pressure into the glass. And that's what's going to keep it from shattering on you, just tightening on the handle. Maybe one of these days we'll buy one, we'll just reef it on and blow the door up for fun next, but that's what it's for, okay? So don't have that experience and go, oh, I don't need a washer. There goes your door. It's 5 cents for the washer. Probably another $150 for the replacement glass door. All right, let's see how it works. That looks all right. That's an interesting installation. Okay, now the only thing left for me to do, it really is to just go along with all my silicone, double check all my joints, make sure everything is cleaned up and topped up and looking pretty, right? This is adjusted, it's functional, it's done. Now, this is the benefit of doing the frame in one day and then walking away, okay? Speeds up the whole process. Find something else to do with your time. Come back later when everything's fixed in place and you're ready to hang on it, okay? All right, brilliant. Well, thanks for joining us on this ride. Hopefully you've learned enough and you're confident enough that you can move forward. Remember, our goal here on this channel is not to just show you how to do things, it's to give you enough information that you can be confident and competent, right? You don't want to do something and fail. So if you have questions, make sure you ask them in the comment section. Join us, subscribe for the journey. We're done the farmhouse now, okay? But that doesn't mean I'm done teaching. We have a brand new studio that we've set up at the new church. We're going to be doing a bunch of projects. You don't want to miss out. Hit that bell for notifications. If you haven't seen it yet, we have an A to Z on the rest of the bathroom remodel. We did a whole series. We've got a tub, we've got a single to a double vanity, the flooring, the toilet, all of the fixtures. Click the link up here and learn how to do your whole bathroom over from scratch. You can do it yourself. I believe you. Cheers.